Now that actually, Dan's in the digital green room down there. That must have been quite. Oh, why can I hear myself? Oh, there you go. That must have been quite weird for Dan to hear, because that someone on YouTube just did a extended remix, and so some of those images I don't think are even Dan's. He was probably watching that then going, "What is this?" But you can't have Dan on and not play that tune. That's going to be glued to him forever. Right, usual capers. So this is going to be. I've got about 40 minutes worth of clips. I will Dawn Browning, hello love, screams like a Beatles fan. So I've got about 40 minutes of clips. I'll probably Dan will probably fail before me, even though I've got the coof. You know, I'm a stream machine. I'm a silver stream machine. Just before we started, Dan said to me, "How are you?" You know, like you would to your mate. And I went, "Well, a bit scared." He went, "Scared?" I went, "Well, you know, I'm always tired." Not a great start for a conversation stream, but there you go. So you can ask Dan any questions. All entropies and all super chats will get to Dan. Obviously, if he doesn't want to answer something, which is quite likely sometimes because of what has happened to Dan, he might just not want to go there. I will try and get other questions to him, though, from the chat. So feel free to ask Dan questions and me. We'll be chatting. We'll be looking at clips. I've got clips of humans being funny. I've got clips of humans being excellent. I've got libs of TikTok. I've got all sorts of things. So I think that's it, really. I don't think we'll have the banner up. I'll tell you what, you can read it once. There you go. If you value this stream, feel free to donate via Super Chat or Entropy. It is the grease that keeps the stream sliding. I think you all know that off by heart now anyway. So there you go. Where is my Entropy? Let me just open Entropy. So excited. So excited. Love talking to Dan. It takes me back to some gorgeous times in 2006 where there's I actually will give this little introduction actually, but it was 2016. It was all kicking off, Brexit and Trump and YouTube for me, and I well liked the Iconoclast channel, and he made a video, top my favorite YouTubers. And I was on the list, and I was going, watched it about 100 times. Still got it on a hard drive. If I'm feeling down, I watch it. Anyway, without further ado, I'll just deal with that one here. It's okay to be a nationalist, says, is there a video for the story of Chris and a lady whose legs fell off during intercourse? There isn't. No, there's a lady who died, but someone in the chat might have to remind me. I think her legs fell off just became a thing because, you know, I had that girl, another girl who died. She liked me strangling her and she died. They both come back to life, though. Phew. And I think it became just a bit of a joke because... you know, whenever I started telling a story, it ended with someone, usually not me, dying. So anyway, without further ado, Dan! Hello, mate!
Merry Christmas, everybody. How you doing?
Well, hey, lad! Ma, Pa, come look, it's Dan! It's the Iconoclast, he's back!
What kind of accent is that supposed to be? What the fuck are you doing?
I've been practicing it since I started watching Our Friends in the North last week. That didn't work, did it? No. Well, hey, it's Dan.
No, you've got a bit of work to do, I think. Sorry, constructive, but never mind. Anyway, I didn't know you had the coof as well. I woke up this morning with it as well. So if I go silent for a few seconds here and there randomly, it's because I'm coughing my guts up. Apologies to everybody.
I explained to everyone else that on the stream a couple of days ago because I do it as well. I think there's nothing happening, and then it's like a really horrible.
Yeah, it's awful. Isn't it? It's that time of the year. I haven't been ill all year, and then obviously today's the day, and I wake up and I'm ill. It's perfect timing when we have 40 clips to get through.
Dan, well, 40 minutes worth of clips, so we don't have to watch them all. But I'll tell you what, the amount of people I've spoken to, and I sort of say, I've had it now for about 2-3 weeks. Sorry, my earpiece is sort of making a weird rattling noise. But the amount of people I've spoken to, I said, I've got COVID or whatever. And they say, yeah, me too. And I'm like, what? And you've just done it again. I think there's like a second wave, you know.
I don't think it's COVID. I think I'm just ill. I think it's just a winter illness. Because I had COVID.
Test?
No, I'm not going to fucking test myself.
I did.
I had COVID last year and I got over it in about 4 days and it wasn't that bad. This is worse. So far, it's just more painful, you know. It's just a throat infection.
What they call it, strep. Have you got strep? Strep throat.
All I know is I've got something.
Some northern disease. Just quality
some
of the
northern, air. Some anthrax disease. Some fucking black plague, yeah.
What's the one? That bloke wrote the book on it, The Death Map. When the miasma theory of illness, cholera. You've got cholera. There you go.
Well, yeah. Can't be good.
Consider yourself diagnosed.
Thank you, Dr. Dangerfield. I wanted to come. I mean, I think you've told this story before. I like to jump on your channel a couple of times a year because it's always a laugh and you don't have to do anything heavy. And of course, it's Christmas time now, which is, I never used to like Christmas, but now I'm fully into it. I know you're supposed to be cynical about the commercialization of it and all that, but I don't really engage in that. I just enjoy it. You can take your foot off the gas and just relax and have a good time. I really enjoy this time.
Absolutely right. I think I'm really missing it. I've got a subscriber, Mrs. Me in it, who the last 3 years has sent me a Christmas survival box. Right. And weirdly, it's more Christmas than I've had since I was a child. It's got like a little mini Christmas tree, fairy lights, Christmas pudding, booze, brandy to set the pudding on fire, handmade crackers, and me and my missus just sit round and have like a little 2-hour Christmas. But I would love to be in Soho over Christmas. It's quite magical up and down Regent Street with all the lights and, you know, a couple of hot toddies. It's just very English, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And, you know, you can go on and people do about, the true meaning of Christmas has been lost over the years. Look at all of these commercials and adverts and Coca-Cola. But I actually quite enjoy that as well. Maybe that makes me a bad right winger. You know, I don't know. I enjoy it.
The thing is that that happened as a kid. You know, it's been commercialized for about a century. And so they are part of the nostalgia. And also, you know, for fuck's sake, watching the football is capitalism. Having dinner is capitalism. You can't, I only do things that aren't capitalist. That's what it was like when I was a communist. And it means you do nothing.
Yeah, you can't live your life because everything's capitalism. Yeah, well,
exactly.
Merry Christmas, anyway. You're right.
Exactly. Merry Christmas to you, Dan, as well. Packer drops £2. Dan, love your format, content, and delivery. Yeah,
well, thank you very much. I worked hard.
It's an in joke, Packer, because we had a bloke on here once, and with no irony, he said he dropped me a super chat, and he said words to the effect of, Chris, I kind of like your streams, but if you could just change the format, the content, and the delivery, they'd be good. It was mad. John Morton, you're right. Yeah, the girl that we used to ring up after a night out in the town, who was the boss of the sex chat hotline, she got run over and had her legs chopped off. That's probably where it come from. Good call, John.
What on earth have I walked into here?
I did say there'd be a bit of housekeeping, but I just jumped into it a bit too quickly.
I'm always aware when I jump on your channel that there's an entire multiverse of scrubness that I haven't caught up on, and there's no context for me, and I'm just sort of like, what the a dead girl and no what the fuck? So I'm just gonna pretend that I know everything and not comment on it.
That's what I do. And some of them, to explain it would just be so difficult. Like to explain a Maltese Welsh Elvis to you would mean going back and explaining the Daddy Crispy to you. Yeah, so yeah, we'll just get on with what we do. I'm not going to say any hellos. Thank you, Dawn Browning. You're looking good, Dan. Well, do you want to explain that, Dan? And we could probably get into that little chat. Thank you, Dawn. That's very kind of you, love. Yeah, nice to see you as well. I know it's 4:00 in the morning there. So, yeah, Dan.
Yes, the avatar. Well, I mean, since I'm not the Iconoclast anymore, I don't want to use that blurry image that I always used to use. Even though I know I'll never be able to get away from that. But I've been playing around with this AI stuff. And we were having a brief chat before we started, and you've been playing around with it too. So this is a real photo of me, but it's gone through some weird AI nightmare fuel processing. And it's just turned into this. I quite liked it. I thought, well, that's interesting. But this whole AI thing is a huge deal for me, and it's come out of nowhere. And I think it's legitimately going to change the world overnight. And we're going to wake up one morning and everything's going to be different and scary for a lot of people, actually. And all of this AI stuff that's been marketed towards the consumer, so regular people, that stuff is the tamest shit. Governments and corporations have the real stuff behind the scenes. This is just a bit of fun, bit of image processing. You were talking about voiceover things, voice changing, and AI art and writing and all this. That's just consumer level. Can you imagine the stuff that the big wigs actually have and are using? It's unthinkable at this point. It's going to change the world, man.
It doesn't bear thinking about, does it?
No, you're echoing a bit, Chris.
No, I'm echoing intentionally. I've just got the wrong one. Hang on.
Oh, see, I should have picked up on that. That's what I'm talking about.
There you go. How's that? Is it? I mean, because it's live processing, I can't hear it.
Oh, you could record an album with that. That's really interesting.
I could sing to you, my friend. Lovely to have you on the string.
I need to send you a link to this afterwards.
But it's mad that it's mad that it's doing it live. That's the difference. It's actually doing it live.
Jesus.
I mean, yeah. And there's about another 500 choices. I will just do this one.
It's quite good fun. How's it going over there? Are you enjoying the stream, Dan? Are we all good? Everything good? We look very good.
This is scary, this is legitimately scary stuff. It's like I said, the world is going to change very, very quickly. You're not going to know what's true or what's false.
Well, that's where I was going to go. Can you tell me that stopped now? Is it back to me? Because
it's back to you now.
It's hello, Infamous T. What an absolute pleasure. Yeah, happy Christmas to you, mate. Here's the thing. As you were just saying, that thing there, it's called Voice Mod or something. It's 40 quid for life. Really? You spend 40 quid and you get it for life, right? And they say, what is going on? Hang on. Blah, 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 blah. I'm just going to put up with it. They say they're going to give 100 new ones every month. But I was speaking to someone on a forum and he said there's another one coming out where you've got about 300, I don't know what you'd call them, metrics or something. And effectively you can do an impression of anyone because you've got timbre, pitch, speed. And if you can adjust, and he said you can play the voice of someone into it. So I'd record, well, this stream's been recorded anyway, so I'd edit out all of me talking, play you, and the more of you I put into it, the better it will be, and it will adjust all these metrics, and then I can talk live in your voice.
Yeah,
that's already there. That already exists. So I can ring up your bank, and I don't know if you've got this, but I've got some bank accounts where I have to say my voice is my password. And
I've got a couple like that. Yeah.
Well, that's all off. That's all over because I can just my voice synthesizer is Dan's password. Yeah. You're in. Great. I mean,
there's not much money in my account anyway. It's not worth it.
No, it's your crypto I'm after. Have you been playing around with Chat GTP?
No, not yet. But I've been playing around with similar programs. There's so many, it's unbelievable. I've been mainly interested in the image stuff because some of the things that can do is really quite incredible. You could make a bloody graphic novel out of some of this. Yeah. I know a lot of people are minting NFTs and selling them, and it's almost as if a real artist has done it, but clearly it's just AI. It's incredible.
For people who don't know,
I'm shocked by it actually.
Well, Dan, you've already mentioned what's going on in the background, and like you say, if this is what they're giving to the lumpen proletariat to play with on YouTube, what the fuck is going on? GCHQ or whatever. But it seems to me like they just 5 or 6 came out in a week. Go on then, give it to them, and it was like, wow, why is this all happening now? Why did they release a load?
It was an avalanche. The dam broke, and suddenly there's, probably dozens and dozens of different consumer AI products.
It's got to be tech collusion, hasn't it? They've got to be meeting up and saying, look, how's your voice synth going? Or how's your video processing going? Are you ready to go? Yeah, well, let's all release next week, because there's no other way. They all come out together.
Yeah, it's almost you're priming the human population for this massive change in reality. But without giving too much away, I work with my friend during the day job, I suppose, and we've been aware of AI writing tools for quite a while. You can, things like Jasper. I don't know if you've heard of Jasper. It's a very simplistic tool, but if you want to knock out 1,000-word article for something, it can do it. Now you have to fact check it because it's not that great, but that's rooted. That stuff is basic compared to the stuff that's coming out now. It's really quite amazing, and I don't think people are quite prepared for this. Well, the impact it's going to have on the world.
That chat GTP, me and my business partner, or as you and yours were, me and my business partner were playing around with it. I'd love to be able to show you people, but because I'm in Cambodia, even the VPN, I'm on a waiting list. But when I do a Google Meet with my business partner, we can play around with it. And chat GTP, you can literally say to it, write me a 1,000-word story about a prince and a princess who fall in love. It doesn't work, but in the end, it comes good. You can literally say that to it, and in about 30 seconds, it will write it, and it's what it's meant to be. It looks like a story about a prince and a princess, and they make stuff up, because what it does is it scans the internet and it learns about stories about princes and princesses, works out the tropes. Oh, this has occurred. We've got 10,000 stories about princesses and princes. This trope has occurred 800 times. This trope has occurred 1,000 times. So they're the ones. It works it all out, and it does it. My mate typed in write a song. What did he say? Write a song about suicide in the style of David Bowie, and it done it, and it was convincing, because what it done was went and found all of David Bowie's lyrics, found the things that, what's the word I'm looking for? The not trope, the characteristics, the idiosyncrasies of Bowie, and done it. Now, I'm a member of a few writing groups online, and I despise them because they're rubbish writers, but I'm only there to shield my novel. But they're all terrified. Now, I'm not. You won't be able to. You'll be able to get that thing to write a short story in my style, but there's a big difference between style and actual. Like there's plenty of painters who can paint in the style of Cézanne, but they're not Cézanne. They didn't paint when he painted. They haven't got the historical context, Whereas all these fantasy writers are absolutely shitting it because...
Oh, I bet they are. There's so much material for the AI to draw from that it couldn't come up with. It can come up with something convincing that you would read and be like, oh, yeah, I buy this. Someone wrote this. And again, with that program, what I've been interested in is seeing people telling the AI to just make an app for something. Code me an app that does X, Y, and Z. I think there was some 15-year-old kid who got it to make a video game for him. and then he started selling the video game on Steam or something and made a shit ton of money. I mean, it's unbelievable, this stuff.
I saw a geezer do it with Python, you know, the coding language Python. He said, write me a program in Python that does this. And it was something he needed doing for his online shop. Yeah. And ChatGPT done it. It made his program for him.
Yeah, what's the company that that Elon Musk has a stake in? It's another AI company. Is it actually Chat?
I
no,
think
something else.
That's OpenAI. I think someone in the
right.
chat will know. I don't know. I'll see if someone comes up. Yeah, OpenAI. Is that Elon's? That's the people who do Chat GTP, isn't it? But people, listen to this one, the video one that I was playing around with. And again, it's a very early one. This Special K on Acid saying Neuralink. Is that Elon's one, Neuralink?
That's his brain chips, isn't it? That's it. That he wants to put chips in people's heads to do whatever. I'm not really sure. Yeah, it's the merge of humanity and technology that he's so high on.
That's the bit we don't like about him. Everything else, great. But people, I watched this video. You know what? I'll show you the bloody video. I'll show you it so you can get an idea. Hang on. Actually, he's a bit boring, this bloke. Right, I'll tell you. For instance, so imagine I make a YouTube video in my room, not a live one, but I record what I'm telling a story. Mm-hmm. When I'm finished, without having a green screen or a blue screen, I can say, get rid of the background, put a beach in the background,
right,
or anything, but not a still image. You can have moving things. I can be in the back seat of a car while the car's driving around with audio, right? And it moves me like that when the background's moving. I can then smooth out all my skin. I can change the shape of my head. I can lighten up my teeth. I can put my ears in. This isn't an image, people. This is video. And it processes that in about 5 minutes. And so, you're going to be watching YouTube channels, which, all those women who do makeup, for instance, they're all going to look like the hottest birds in the world. Because why are you going to bother competing? If you can make yourself look like, what I can't think of any. I like Jodie Marsh, so, it doesn't really help.
That's a name from the past, isn't it? Jesus.
No, it's the name from the present. We'll take Lucy Pinder, the woman on the thumbnail.
I don't know who she is.
Oh, what, Lucy Pinder, the 90s glamour model. Good Lord, Dan, I'll show you. I'll show you. This always happens. We always have a second look at the thumbnail. There is a reason for me showing you this, because if you're starting a YouTube channel and you can look like you, or you can look like Lucy Pinder. Yeah, I'll just pop it on the screen. Or if not look like Lucy Pinder, look that hot. Yeah, she's coming up now. Why aren't you going to do that?
Well, yeah, I mean, you can see already something like Twitch, for example, all of these girls streaming on there, getting shit tons of donations. Yeah, I mean,
there you go.
You can imagine it's just going to flood the entire marketplace. I'm saying this, you're talking about this video stuff. I think there will be a massive cultural movie event in the next few years where a big movie is released that is completely made by artificial intelligence. I can definitely see that happening, and it'll be a huge
the whole thing. The script, the whole thing, the directing, everything.
Yeah, everything.
So so what would the human input be? I mean, I know you're just coming up with this, but for instance, how little are you suggesting the human? Make a film about what? Or, I don't want to put words into your mouth, but what there would have to be some human element. You wouldn't be able to make a movie. Could you do that?
Well, maybe you can. I don't know. But I think you would have a cast of actors. So you'd like Brad Pitt, for example, would sign up to have his likeness used. And they'd be like, okay, this guy is Brad Pitt. His character is X, Y, and Z. He does this. He thinks this. So you basically, of course, there's a human element, much like there is now.
But that's the interesting bit, isn't it? How much? I wouldn't be surprised if you might be able to do make a cop drama.
Oh yeah,
well,
something simple like that. Yeah, in the style of Lethal Weapon, right? You could do that, and it'll churn something out that we've seen versions of before, but it'll be completely generated by artificial intelligence. And obviously, as time goes on, it'll get more advanced, and maybe, I mean, when it gets to a point where AI can think, then we're all dead, aren't we? But I think
that's what they're saying it is doing, because that's what the machine learning is. I mean, the French philosopher Jean Baudrillard said it's a bit flippant and it's a bit flippant, but he said artificial intelligence lacks artificiality and therefore intelligence, which is quite a nice angle on it. Because hang on, what was the last thing you said? Sorry, Dan, it's the coof brain fog. What was the last thing you said?
I just said that it's going to get better and better out over time, and if it starts to think and become self-aware, then we're all done for, aren't we?
Well, this is the interesting thing, because I think it's going to make... I mean, there's people using Chat GPT to make jazz. There's people saying, do me a new Miles Davis album. And so the AI listens to all of Miles Davis's output and just makes a new Miles Davis album. Now, here's the issue. Not the issue. I think it's going to make cultural produce better. In the same way that, I mean, why did modernism happen? You know, it happened because of the printing press and photography. Before, you know, through the whole classical period and the Renaissance, people were painting very kind of lifelike, albeit kind of, you know, what would the word be? You know, like the great classical paintings. They're all very muscly and beautiful, and all that. But it was still very realist. But then when the camera came out, artists responded to that. And that's when you got the likes of Paul Cézanne and Van Gogh. They responded to technology in a way that actually challenged what painting was. And then we move all the way up to the likes of Andy Warhol, Damien Hirst, etc., etc. Literature done the same in a way. When you got, because printing presses, you know, you could set up a company for about 500 quid and just like Dave Martell, who does the Biz Archives, he was on Millennial the other day, and he was talking about the pulp fiction of the American 1950s, where writers were being paid next to nothing to knock out very, very low quality detective novels, for instance. And Robert Maguire was painting the covers for them. And, you know, this was real commuter trash. They cost, in today's money, about 5p a copy. You bought them and read them on the train on the way to work. But so what happened with literature was you got people like William Burroughs writing The Naked Lunch using his cut and fold. You got Thomas Pynchon doing all his stuff. And up until what we've got now, the likes of, well, not now, but the last sort of half a century, Bukowski, you know, just a tramp, really. Herbert Huncke, a down and out, lived in a toilet in Times Square. You got David Foster Wallace, and they're all a reaction to technology. And so I don't necessarily think it's certainly going to be a threat to industry, but when it comes to the arts, is a threat to industry necessarily a bad thing?
I understand what you're saying. It could cause everyone else to up their game and to really compete and be innovative. And like you say, all those people reacted to the invention of the camera, for example. But I think with AI, I mean, this is all very interesting stuff to talk about, but I think the biggest takeaway with AI is the stuff that you're not aware it's doing. So if you're watching the news, how do you know if it's real? How do you know if that speech given by the president of whatever country is actually him saying it? You know, that's the stuff that's really sinister about AI. The artistic stuff, it's fun to play around with, definitely. And it might lead to some interesting developments in that world. And I hope it does, because I think art and cultural stuff right now is very, very stale, especially Hollywood, for Christ's sake.
Yeah, exactly.
But
I mean,
the artificial stuff in real world is going to be a problem for people to navigate, definitely.
So, are you sort of suggesting that there might be some big scoop, and it's Putin saying something really bad, and they're selling it to us as legit?
Yeah, exactly.
And then, of course, I was just thinking that. Then you've got the bit where he actually gets caught. So, some world leader gets caught saying something really bad, and then he says, no, "That's not me. That's been AI generated."
Yeah, just the element of trust will be completely gone. You won't be able to trust anything you see or hear, especially now because the AI stuff is getting not mainstream, but everyone who spends time on the internet is really becoming aware of it now. I don't know if the average woman in the street knows anything about it, but maybe there'll be
woman.
Oh, yes, I know. I'm very inclusive.
You don't know which you'd switch a Rooney. Well, here's something interesting. We talked to our customer service team and we said, start using ChatGPT, because the more you use it, the better it's going to get, because it will learn stuff. And one of my customer service agents was a girl I was with for 10 years. And she said to me today, she said, I'm sort of joking, but because my business partner took them through it. And she said, I can't help but think this is the start of us being out of a job. Yeah. And she's not, she won't be, because there's things that it can't do yet.
Yeah, I was just about to say that, yet.
But then if we employed some people who worked remotely from the Philippines. And one of them, when he first started, his English wasn't great. And people thought he was a bot, right? Mm. And they were complaining. They said, put me onto a real person. I don't want to speak to a bot. And so I think they'll actually it'll be a value if you say to your customers, if you talk to us, if you need advice, if you've got a problem with your order, you speak to real people. And then there'll be legal consequences if that gets proved wrong. So, I think in much the same way as art will improve and film will have to improve, I actually think in those situations, the value of humans we already hate it when you try and ring up one of these mega companies like BT because your BT Sport isn't working. And it's like, hello, we're happy to take your call. And it's like, fuck off. I don't want a computer telling me you're happy. And then it's like, press 1 if you want this. You just wait for it to get to press 57 if you want to speak to a human. About fucking time. And everyone waits for that. No one. I've never made a selection. I always wait to talk to someone. So, I don't think it's, newspapers done the same thing, didn't they? As soon as you could distribute information that was printed, you could print information that wasn't true, and yet it had a sense of, trust. This is the Guardian. This is the Times. Why would they lie? So, I don't know. I'm not sure if I'm as concerned about it as a lot of people are. I think people have always responded to technology. The first step is fear, but the enemy or the opposite of AI is nature. And nature's a strong opponent, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we'll have to see what happens. It's all very new. But yes, that's the story behind my avatar. And we went into this whole thing. But it's if people in the chat, if the scrubs haven't played around with this stuff yet, I would suggest you do. It's incredibly eye-opening. Yeah.
I really agree. And I think it's important to get to know it, because that will be part of us as a species and us as a community, a nation, whatever, being at least aware enough to know where we might be being taken. Familiarize yourself with this technology.
Yes.
I think,
Knowledge is
I think that's
power,
quite
as they say.
important. Absolutely. Stephen Campbell drops an Ayrton Senna. Lumi turned us on to that writing AI. That'll be ChatGPT, I imagine. And it was great fun. Pizzle and I are trying to make it based. We'll get there. Well, they've kind of protected it against that. Do you remember, what was her name? Tay. Microsoft done one on Twitter.
It just turned racist in like 3 hours or something, didn't it? It went full on.
Someone said something to her like, "Are you racist?" And Tay went, "You're brown." I like Hitler was another one. It wasn't Kanye West that said that first. It was Tay. Yeah, 24 hours I had to shut it down, but they're all over that now.
Yeah, there was something recently about these AI art generators. They had to shut one of them down because most people who were going on it were just making child pornography. It was fucking mental.
Wow.
Like all of these weirdos from dark corners of the internet were finding it and just making as much as they could.
Well, I was just about to say, Stephen, thank you for that tenner. I wasn't just about to say that, but I should say it now. And Dub Power, I'll get onto yours in a minute. I am on these donations. Really appreciated, of course, at this skid time of year. I mean, the sex robots. Dan, I had a company contact me and say, would you promote this on your YouTube channel? And all it was, well, in the scrubs, we call it a bum fanny. All it was imagine a lump of rubber shaped as a female, but from the belly button to the top of the thighs. So just the bum and fanny, right?
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, and I've since found other people on the internet promoting it. They told me to name my price. I would have loved to have done it, 1 for the money and 2 for the laughs, because they would have wanted me like these other people. They're sort of going,
for fuck's sake.
Yeah, and they're going, that's a really realistic tired ass. That's if I wasn't looking, but if that got intercepted in the post, I'd have got chucked out the country. They do not tolerate that sort of stuff in Cambodia. No.
Oh, really? So they would just be like, "Oh, we can't have him here. We have to get rid of this guy." Well, maybe that's a good thing. I don't know.
Well, you can't buy porn here. You don't go into a mini mart and have 3 or 4 rows of porn, which weirdly you still do in England.
Do you?
Yeah.
So if you go into a newsagents, there's still top shelf stuff.
Yeah, I had this conversation with a mate just the other day because I said, "Oh, come on, surely not." And he said, "No, there is. There still is." He said his local's got like 3 rows of it. Because we got into the funny conversation where all that stuff up there, but the stuff you're allowed to look at is all these perfect photoshopped female faces on Vogue and all that. And out of the 2 of them, I'd question which one is more damaging, A, to women, B, to society.
Well, they're probably both AI at this point. So fuck knows.
There's no women left.
No.
Well, that was going to be my next point. I'm not interested in sex robots. I like having sex with my missus. I really like it. However, right, and I'm going to be honest, and I've said this before, if in my lifetime they produced one that was undetectable, that was completely convincing. So if I ordered a Lucy Pinder sex doll, she knocked on my door, come in and went, "Hi, I'm Lucy, you must be Chris," and walked over, and you wouldn't be able to tell the difference. Would I venture down there? It's all very well going, well, it's not a woman, it's not real. Yeah, but if you don't know and you can't tell, the fact that it's not real is inconsequential.
I don't think a lot of people would even care if it was real or not. I think a lot of people would just go for that because there was this TV show that came out a while ago. I think it was called Humans, and it was about realistic artificial intelligence. And this family bought this robot to just help around the house, to do like washing up and all this stuff.
Robot, you're so old. Robot.
But the show took a turn when the husband, because it was like a a married couple and they had 3 kids or whatever, very normal family. The husband discovered that there was an extra purchase option for the robot where it turned it into a sex bot. And he did that. And he was like having it away with this very realistic robot behind his wife's back.
What's it called?
I think the show was called Humans.
People
in the chat might have seen it. It's from, I don't know, it's about 10 years old at this point.
Let us know if you saw it, chat. Sorry, Dan, go on.
It was interesting. I didn't watch any. I think there's only 3 seasons. I watched maybe the first one and gave up on it. But it was interesting, the concept. And I can see stuff like that happening. You know, these sort of helping robots that just, you know, cook your dinner and stuff like that. And then the husband sneakily buys the upgrade that flips a switch in the head, and then he's, you know, doing all this. So I can definitely see that happening.
Well, like, you know, a microwave is a cooking robot to an extent, a very sort of basic one. But, you know, will people want them to look like a human? You know, like if you could get, you see these people with these vacuum cleaners that just go around and they learn your room, and if you could get a really hot looking bird, you know, in a little maid's outfit, well, you know, and if they were pretty cheap, which they probably will be by then, would you have that little robot if you were a bachelor, or would you get Cindy, the 5'10" busty blonde, to clean your house?
I think the answer's obvious, and I think this is a matter of when and not if. You know, it's going to happen.
Well, that's what, you know, that's my point. And also there will be men, but I mean the debate I had with a friend of mine about writing and all this AI stuff is the AIs don't have an unconscious. Computers cannot have an unconscious. And when you do anything creative, or when you do anything as a human, you know, I'm only aware of what I'm aware of. That's what I'm conscious of. But you and everyone who's listening is getting my unconscious as well. I'm literally not conscious of those parts of me. This is why a lot of people don't like hearing themselves on tape. That's even older than robot, isn't it? But this is why a lot of people, especially if you've not been a musician or a content maker, if you see yourself on film or video, a lot of people can't stand it. Or you take a photo of them, they say, "Oh, I'm not photogenic." It's not that they're not photogenic and, you know, all this. It's because they see the elements that they're not conscious of, and because artificial intelligence cannot have an unconscious. You know, it cannot play the part of the accidental confession, for instance. Like a lot of textual readings of old novels, the interesting stuff is where the writer has given the game away, but unintentionally. You know, when you do readings of them, like Jean-Jacques Rousseau's book, The Confessions, which he wanted to be published after he died, and they did. But he makes all these confessions, but the actual confessions he didn't realize he was making. But people have read it and they've sort of joined the dots, and there's a lot more going on in there than I think an AI bot could ever do. Because how do you program accidents?
Right. Yeah, that's an interesting point. The thing about being I don't like having my picture taken. I'm one of those people.
That's why no one's seen you. I know what you look like.
Yeah, you do. You found me on Facebook back in the day when I wasn't careful at all about my identity.
I found a picture of you sitting on a tank, Dan.
Oh yeah, that's a classic. Yeah, I enjoyed that one. What was I going to say? Oh yes, in the Matrix, he goes on about, I think Morpheus is telling Neo about, we all have something called a residual self-image, which is what we all think we look like. In our heads, we have this image of ourselves. And then when you see yourself in a picture, it's like, holy shit, that's me? What? And obviously AI is not going to have that, because it's not going to have that internal thought of itself. So it's going to be very interesting, man. Now, what can I say?
I think that's the way to approach it. I think at this stage, to fear it is is as ridiculous as is as ridiculous as when you find out that African tribes think that taking a photo of you steals your soul. Yeah. You know, we laugh at that story. Well, I think there's a lot of that going on here. You know, and if AI is going to ruin cultural output like painting and writing, well, we have to up our games, or we deserve it. You know, if we've created machines that have outproduced us, well, that's on us. It's not on the machines until they come in with a gun they made overnight.
Yeah, that's exactly. You know, it's interesting to see how far it's come, because I remember years ago I was talking about automation, for example, in truck driving. That seems so primitive now compared to where we are.
Yeah.
Now, you know, I mean, I don't like McDonald's, but I know when you go into McDonald's, there's just these self-checkout screens, so you don't even deal with a person. You order on a screen, and then it just gets delivered on a table, and then you go pick it up. And now, I mean, it's going to be even more advanced than that. It's just going to be, there's going to be no interaction with anyone at all. You're going to be interacting with a robot that can or may not, either can or can't think. Who knows?
The cows walk into a room, and then it's machines process them. Machines put them in buns. Machines drive them to McDonald's. Machines wrap them, and then you just go and press the buttons. There's no humans involved, and machines farm the cows.
Yeah, and this is when we bring in universal basic income and the 15-minute city. See, it all works together. It's fantastic. What a brave new world.
Yeah, well, but I will still stand by nature. You know, I think I say this all the time, but when I look back over my life, the moments that made it worth living were the romantic, were the passionate, were the artistic. And they're the things that I don't think machines will ever be able to compete with us. You know, you can fall in love with a machine. You can. I think it's dealt with really well in Ex Machina. I think that's what it's called. Ex Machina.
Oh yeah, great film. Very good.
Yeah, I think it's dealt with quite well. But you know, it's a bit of a trite question. Oh, what is a real person? Well, it's someone who was born from other real people rather than programmed. And there's that one very, very sort of weak, delicate bit in it where the programmer says to him, "Oh, I've put a thing downstairs. It's all working." You know, there's something about a female yielding to you sexually that she's made a choice to when she didn't have to. And a machine that you can program to just do it. Are you really going to program your machine to say, "I don't fancy you"? You know, are you going to make it a challenge? And if you do that, well, it's getting so contrived now, you'll probably end up insane. You're not going to program the machine to say, "Sorry, I've got a headache. Maybe tomorrow." Well, there you go. You know, you make as your love doll getting on. Oh, she still won't let me do it. You know, I've touched her. She's like a real woman. It's not what I signed up for. When you get it, you get the little cartridges. Sex bomb, yeah, wicked. Porn star, yeah, wicked. Girlfriend, I don't think I'll be using that. Wife, yes. A couple of super chats come in. Dawn Browning, dear AI, here's our bank account details. Make us rich. Kindest regards to Scrubs. There you go. I think it'll all happen tonight. But you know, it's funny. Thank you, Dawn. Very, very kind of you. I've watched YouTube videos, and it's taken me a couple of minutes to realise this whole video hasn't had a human involved. It's been stock video clips and just an AI generated voice, and it's just like, what the fuck am I watching? And even though the information was good, I just didn't want to watch it. I just thought, no, I want a human element in there. I had this thought the other day. Have you seen those YouTube videos? I have. I know exactly what you're talking about. I had this thought the other day. I'm not going to do it because I just don't have the time. But I was actually thinking about doing one of those YouTube channels
about AI. So it's completely about AI, made by AI, pushing all this consumerist stuff.
You've gone meta there, Dan.
It's very meta. I know, it's like Matrix 4. Yeah, it's and that wasn't very good either.
I think you might be onto something there, because you could use the comments to trigger the next video.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost self-sustaining.
Yeah,
yeah. I'm not going to do it because I'm just like, no, even I'm not going to do that.
Because it's too evil. It's too evil.
It's a little bit evil, yeah. I don't think I'd feel good doing it. No, but anyway, if someone in the Scrubs wants to do it, then feel free, give it a go.
There you go.
Let us know how it goes.
It's strange. It really is strange. I think you're right. I think it is an epistemological rupture in terms of society. I think it's going to change things significantly. It really is. But that's all right. That's what happens. It's what happens in society. Technology changes things. Will Self's last 3 books, Umbrella, Shark, and Phone, they're all about how war changes technology faster than any other period in historically. If you want technology to develop at a very high rate, have wars. Right. And then how that technology has affected us as humans. And there's a philosophical canon. The Polish philosopher Zabinski, I think it is, who first talked about the difference between the territory and the map. Then Jorge Borges talked about it. Then Jean Baudrillard talked about it in Simulations, which is the book at the start of The Matrix, where he's dealing in those digital drugs. He actually gets it out of Baudrillard's book. And what Will Self has said, that that this whole canon that has spread. Even what's his name? Lewis Carroll even talked about it. The map and the territory. What Will Self says is that now the map is the territory. There was a time where technology made us confuse the map for the territory, but the screen, like we're on the internet, which is the territory. It's a digital territory, but it's also the map, because it's where you go to find where you are. Right. And so and the internet has changed our lives, but has it changed them as much as people thought? Maybe in some aspects, and maybe not in others,
Technology is interesting. I don't want to get too political on this stream, but I think, am I a bad right winger if I don't openly oppose the evolution of technology? Because I think there's always been this sort of sentiment where we want to scale things back. And at the end of the day, I understand that, but you can't really do it because it's going to happen anyway. You can't slow down time and development and human ingenuity. It's just not going to happen. So it is what you make of it. I mean, you're right. World War II, for example, the technology developed within that conflict directly influenced NASA, space travel. You can't
the Cold War and space travel.
Yeah. I mean, so what can you do, really? It's I guess you've just got to hope that the technology lands into people who don't want to use it for ill, but you can't really stop that either.
And also, though, where do you go back? I mean, I remember a lot of the dissident right a couple of years ago talking about, especially the American dissident right, there was almost like a fetishization of 50s America, of the mum and dad, 2.5 kids, white picket fence and a dog. But no, that's already lost it. Where's the extended family? That's gone. In that instance, the extended family is gone. Whereas out here, out in the provinces, there's 30, 40 people live in like one little block, and that's grandparents, cousins, aunties, uncles. The kids are brought up by sort of 40 people. So where would you, the technology's ruined everything. I want to go back to, well, where? Because, the technology, ships that allowed us to sail around the world. Do we go back before them? Because they certainly changed the world. Look at what happened, like continental labor shifts, slave trades, the wars they caused, all that. So do we go back to ships, or I don't think it's ever a question of technology, and I think you just said it. Actually, it's what people choose to do with it.
Yeah, in regards to the family unit and things like that, I can definitely see the impact that the internet has had on something like the family. I mean, look, I'm not that old. I'm only 32, but I do remember a time before the internet. I didn't get the internet until I was 13. My childhood was completely internet free. Now you've got kids. I mean, I see it all the time if I'm in the bar with my friend and we see a family of 4, parents and 2 kids. The kids are always on their iPad. They're not even interacting with with their parents, and the parents seem quite happy to let them do that because it's stress off for them. Yeah. But the long-term effects of that, I can't believe are good. That seems to be very, very dangerous to me. And I know a guy, I'll just say this. I know a guy, I'm not going to give his name away, but he works, or he did work in a primary school as a teacher. So he's teaching kids from 5 to 11, 5 to 10. And he told me that there were several occasions, more than he would like to admit, where he would find 6-year-olds, 7-year-olds watching hardcore porn on their phones at the back of the classroom. And all these kids had behavioral issues, and they were very short-tempered. They would attack other kids, try to stab them with compasses. I mean, it's honestly, I think in regards to that, that is a very dangerous thing. And I do think people have a point when it comes to that. But again, it's down. You can't if you're a parent and you give your kid an iPad, then what do you expect?
Yeah, it's interesting.
There's a responsibility there for you to not do that.
And also how long. Semiagog said something the other day. He said it might be called a phone. It might be called a phone, but it's just as bad as a television. You know, it's very, right. Everyone these days says, "Oh, I don't have a telly. I don't watch television."
Yeah, but they do. They have a little one in their pocket all the time.
You've got this incredible propaganda device in your pocket, you know,
and just social. I mean, it
tells everyone where you are.
I hate to be again go over this because so many people have done it, but social media is a huge issue for certain people. Some people can engage with it and then get out and use it for what it's there for. Some people get totally consumed by it and it becomes their life. One of the things, I got sent a video the other day, and I've seen many videos like this, and it always makes me laugh. But it was a video of a young couple, a guy and a girl. They must have been in their mid-20s, and they were on holiday in Athens in Greece. And she was getting her boyfriend to take all of these Instagram photos of her with her ass hanging out in front of the old ancient Greek buildings. And this went on for a long time, and he gave her the phone so she could look at the pictures, and she was not happy with them at all. And she was like dismissing him and saying he wasn't good enough. And he's like, "What?" There's stuff like that you think, okay, this is definitely degrading the human relationship. And
I'm a bad boyfriend because I can't make my girlfriend's ass look good in front of the Acropolis. Good gosh.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was like. It's amazing.
I mean, you know, I can remember that period about 3-4 years ago when everyone was sort of saying, you know, we should be having in real life meetups. You know, that's what it should be doing. We're too reliant on the internet. Well, I kind of understand that, but the world has changed. Oh, it has changed, and like this is why I do this. This is a community. It's a digital community, and it's all very well saying, yeah, but it's not as good as in real life. All right, then I'll stop it. And then I know that there's a lot of people here who would be absolutely gutted, myself included, because these are people we've got to know each other. We've got to trust each other. You know, we don't all agree with each other, but it is a community, and I think there's actually potential for growth there, for using that technology in a positive way. Now, not to say we're going to replace in real life, but when you've got governments, and I've obviously got to be careful here, but when you've got governments telling you all to get in your house or fucking wear a bee suit if you want to go shopping, it's actually quite handy to have an alternative way of maintaining contact with other people.
Yeah, definitely. I think
all right.
Just to finish on this, I'll give a little heartwarming anecdote. This is why, you know, the internet has changed the world, and you can argue for the better or for worse. I lament some of the things it's taken away, right? So when I was younger, me and my dad used to go to Blockbuster Video, if you remember that. And every Friday night, and we would rent 2 films, go next door, get a pizza, go home, and that would be our Friday night. We did this every week from when I was 6 till 11, right? Something like that. That doesn't exist anymore. That doesn't exist anymore. And I have this nostalgia for those days, and I look at kids today with their iPads, and I just think you're never going to experience that. You're never going to have that, and that makes me sad. But at the same time, what am I going to do? Bring back blockbusters? That won't make any fucking money. That would be a money pit. If I was a billionaire, I'd do it just for my own satisfaction, but I'm not. So what can I do?
Well, didn't they do it? GameStop went through the roof. They kind of rebuilt them, didn't they?
Yeah.
All right, we'll move on. We'll watch a clip, I think. Chloe, thank you, mate, for the tenner. And Ayrton for the pot. I just wanted to say the Iconoclast had a formative experience on me about 5 years ago, and I wish to say thank you kindly, Dan.
Well, thank you very much for watching. It was a good time.
Nice one, Arklow. Me too, without a doubt. I'll just make sure I haven't missed any more of them, and we'll have a little look at a clip. So, Dan, when I play some of these clips, if you want to say anything about them, or even if it reminds you of something else, it's not now we're talking about clips. Just say stop, and I'll just stop it. And you can
that's fine. Just before you start, give me 1 minute. I just need to go to the little boys' room. And
I know you're an old man. I'll deal with some super chats.
All right,
go on. I've got a bag set up down here. Well, I say a bag. I've got a bucket under the chair, so I can do both. Sorry, go on, have a wee. He's already gone. Infamous T, nice one, mate. Here's my annual drink token. Thank you very much. As I always say, for £5 English, I'll probably be able to get 3 old fashions. Thank you, Infamous T. Nice to see you here. And people, if I do miss super chats, I do have a little look back and forwards occasionally, mainly when Dan's talking. So I will try not to miss any. But if I do miss one of yours, just keep telling me in the chat. Because what seems to happen is other people will then other people will start saying it. Danger, you've missed blogs again. The niggler's getting pissed off. Right, lovely to have Dan here, isn't it? Absolutely lovely. Lovely to have 240 people here. If there is anyone here, Bill reckons entropy's offline. I'll just refresh it, Bill. If anyone here isn't aware, it is. That's weird. Entropy's actually causing problems. Fucking typical. Oh no, we might be all right. I am also a writer. I've got a Substack link in the top of it's the first link in the description of this video. It's totally free. There's already 22 short stories over there. It's gone really well. Some of my stories have had now over 10,000 reads. There's loads of very positive comments. So if you want to do us a favour, go and sign up there. That would be very handy. I've got entropy working. So thank you, Bill, for telling me about that. Yiz has said a couple of things. I haven't got anything from you, though, Bill. Is it because it was offline when you went there? Yiz says 1 out of 2. Vart. Yiz says this is 1 out of 2. Despite my appreciation of Uncle Ted, I think separating ourselves from technology is wrong-headed for 2 reasons. 1, technology is neutral and can be used for good by good people. We shouldn't deprive ourselves of powerful tools. That's pretty much what I said, Yiz. 2, not using technology doesn't make it go away. Evil people with sinister plans to harm, enslave, or destroy us will use technology against us. So eschewing technology will be to our detriment. Merry Christmas and a glad Yule to you all. Thank you, Yiz, for those donations. And I think you summed it up absolutely perfectly there. Absolutely perfect. I've said this about football. People say, I don't want to watch football. It's all immigrants. Well, a culture war is a war about culture. And if you're just going to give away our culture, well, Okay, but that ain't how you win a culture war. That just doesn't work. And I agree with you, Yiz. Did you hear that, Dan, what Yiz said about technology?
Yeah, I did at the end of it. Did you watch the World Cup, by the way, recently?
Yeah, a lot of it, yeah.
So I don't know what people's opinion of the World Cup is, but I always love the World Cup, even though I can see the big problems with football. But I've always enjoyed it.
I'm really into club football, especially when my team is 5 points ahead at the top of the league. I always say I don't like international football this year, especially because for the first time ever, it's interrupted the club football season.
Yeah,
we just had to have a break. But as usual, there's so many stories involved in the World Cup. I couldn't help myself. I couldn't help myself when you've got Lionel Messi, who I think is a gentleman and a great sportsman, and
family man, you've got great guy, yeah.
And then against him, you've got Ronaldo, who's a narcissistic arsehole, and I can't stand Ronaldo. And this was Messi's last chance to win the World Cup, and what a way of doing it! What a way of doing it!
Yeah, I loved it. I think it's the best final I've ever seen, ever. And
we done a Jaws watch along, and I was just killing time because it went up to extra time, and I was just sitting in saying nothing while I was watching.
Wait, you had a Jaws the film about the shark. You had a watch along. Yeah. So how does that work then? Do you get people to prime it up at the same time, and then you press play, and then you just chill? Oh, okay, fair enough.
I mean, it wasn't everyone's cup of tea. We got up to 90 people at one point, but it went down to 44. But by the end, there was 44 people. But it was a Sunday night. We're going to do Rocky next week, Rocky 1. But it was just nice because people tell you things about the movie you might not have known, and tell you and everyone's got little stories about it. I didn't sit here talking, blah, 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 blah. I was just sometimes sitting back watching it, and we're all jumping at the same time, and everyone's like, "Oh, it's quite nice. It's quite nice." Thank you, Anglo. I will do. That's 3 old fashions. Thank you very much. There was some funny things. I've got a clip about it, so I won't. Did I see Darling Linda in the chat there? I thought it'd be well past her bedtime and Dawn's. Hello, Otto. Good to see you. Hello, King Corona. Hello, Nathan. Anyway, people, don't forget, sign up to my Substack. Go over there. If you put your email in, any new one I write, it's only about 1 a month. It gets sent to you. You won't get loads of spam. And if you don't like it, no dramas. But if you do like it, and they're very good. Right, let's get some clippage underway. I have done them all on a VT, so I should just be able to rack that up. Now, like I say, Dan, I don't want this to... I don't want to ruin our chat. So if you want to say anything else, we can go anywhere. But there's some funny stuff here. The first one, Steven Seagal.
Oh, yeah. Hero.
I mean, an endless liar. He's one of these blokes who is... I find Arnold Schwarzenegger I said the N-word. I find him an absolute inspiration. He was an immigrant. He couldn't speak the language. He looked very weird. He talks very weird. And then he became Mr. Universe about 6 times on the bounce. Then he became one of Hollywood's biggest paid film stars. Then he became governor of California. I mean, whatever you think about him, you can't take those achievements away from him. You can't.
No, exactly. I agree. Yeah.
Seagal, on the other hand, is just a blagger. Have you seen that American TV series where Steven Seagal goes out with the police?
Yes, that was on about 10 years ago or something. By the way, Steven Seagal, I do have a soft spot for him because that story I told you about Blockbuster and my dad, I can't tell you how many shit Steven Seagal films I've seen throughout the 90s. And they're all the same. All of them are the same. I think he had a few hits when he was younger with, what was it called? Under Siege. When he was
that the one with the lady in the...
Your mind always goes to ladies, doesn't it?
I know. Yeah, it does. Well, when my memory's competing with Steven Seagal, it does. But there's a very saucy scene with a blonde dancing in that film, Under Siege.
Mr. Seagal was quite a handsome man when he was younger, and then he got really, really fat and started wearing snakeskin coats, and he looked like a snake that had swallowed a person. But he really did. But, you know, like a village snake in Mumbai that had swallowed a grandmother or something. You know?
That's excellent. Dan, do you want to answer that question? Because I don't know what the real answer is anymore.
Spike, yes, it's me. It is.
There you go.
Yes.
There you go. Right. Now, you might like this. The Scrubs have seen it, but there's 250 watching, so some might. This isn't AI. Steven Seagal, he's got his finger in many pies. There's not a lot he won't do. Mm. So when someone suggested he recorded a dance hall album,
I think I've seen this, you know. But
he went through it. Well, I'm only going to play you a little bit because I don't want to get the string eaten. But there's an incredible line in it when he says something like, "When you shake your punani, it makes me want to come." And it's like, stop it. Here we go. A bit of Seagal. There's no video. It's a straight screen, but listen to the lyrics. I mean, he's got a proper dancehall female vocalist, but his Jamaican accent ain't cutting it. Here we go. There'll probably be a little pause at the beginning because I fucked it up. Get a bucket ready, people. Here we go. Nice. Why? Tell me what you really want all night. You want the bananas if it make me nice. Me love the way you rock. You talking so hot. Now you know let have a shot of rum. Then me can make you come with me to the ocean. Jesus. You can be my bowcat. Nice tidal breeze. Bring you to your knees. We're jamming. We're jamming. I mean, just tropathon. We're jamming.
I quite like that song. I don't know what your problem is. I might listen to that later.
I'll tell you what. It's about 4.5 minutes long, and that's all it is. It just goes round and round and round.
He's brilliant. Nigel. I do love Steven Seagal. He lives in Russia now, you know. Yeah, I think he renounced his US citizenship and moved to Russia.
That's very interesting. I'll tell you know, what's his name? Who was the comedian? Stephen Lovell died at his swimming pool party.
Oh, Michael Barrymore.
Michael Barrymore. I ended up getting to know him. I
done
a gig.
Or the other guy?
Yeah.
Right.
Michael Barrymore, the other guy, imagine. well, actually, out of the two of them, I might have to think about what one I'm going to admit to. But I'd done a gig for a rehab centre, and it was a charity rehab centre, and I'd done the stand-up. But the table I was on, it was all like rich people who'd been in recovery and celebrities. Mm. But the tables were like 8-seaters. And my table was me, Boy George, Holly Johnson from Frankie Goes to Hollywood, Michael Barrymore, Fat Tony. You won't know Fat Tony, but he's a legendary Soho gay icon. There was one more. The geezer from Erasure and the bloke from Visage. I mean, it doesn't get gayer. I mean,
I was just about to say, is there why are they all gay, these people?
well, because they're all mates and they booked a table. Right. And it was just, I was friends with Fat Tony and he said, "Oi, tramp, do you want to, I've got a free seat at our place if you want it." I said, "I'm doing the fucking stand-up." And he went, "Well, you can still join us." Oh, it's quite nice. He's a funny bloke, Fat Tony, actually. Anyway, the point being, Barrymore said to me, we fell out in the end because he rung me up and I was having dinner with some friends and he started crying, saying he was sitting at home bored with no friends. And I was just like, yeah, he started crying. And he also said to me, if you want to, after my gig, he said to me, if you want to ever come around my house and workshop some material, by material, I hope you're not talking about my swimming trunks.
Yeah, maybe have a swim in the pool.
I'll tell you what, though.
Do you think he did it? Let's just get to it. Do you think he did it?
I think that Lovell character knew full well where he was going and what goes on at those places. It was a gay drug chemsex party, and things get out of hand. Things get out of hand at heterosexual chemsex parties. You know, people suggesting that they dragged some bloke in and buggered him to death. I'm not buying that. I'm not buying that. It was an accidental drugs death. Anyway, that's not what I want to talk about. I said to Barrymore, I said, when I was a kid, you were a legend. You know, I said, you know, because I was a stand-up comic at the time, so it was a good contact to have, weirdly. And I talked about him, and as far as light entertainment goes, he was brilliant. He was brilliant. He's got a TikTok. Yeah, he's got a TikTok channel, and it's smashing it.
I've seen it. It's about the kids say the funniest things. It's just clips.
It's got some of them on it, but it's got clips from loads of his old shows. I mean, some of them have had like 3 million views. All the comments are like, "Oh, I used to love watching this." No one's being an arsehole. Maybe he's deleting them, but you know, that's a tough job deleting TikTok comments because you get so many. But I said to him, I said, you know, what do you do for work? I mean, you must have made a fortune. You know, he had a nice pad in London. He said that, and this was, I'll tell you when this was. This must have been about 15 years ago. He said that he goes out to the Ukraine. He goes out and works on Ukrainian television. He said they love me out there.
Really?
What a weird turnout, yeah.
As a comedian or just a presenter?
As a live, on telly, doing light entertainment shows. So
I'm assuming they would translate. Unless you learn Ukrainian.
Yeah, I mean, I've been to the Ukraine, and most of them speak English. It's not a very good global language, is it? Ukrainian. But yeah, he said most of his work is out. Well, it was then. I doubt there's much now, unless he's entertaining the troops steady. Yeah. Now, here's a lovely little clip, unless you've got anything else to say on any of that.
No, I remember Michael Barrymore in the 90s. I always used to be more of a fan of Noel's House Party and Mr. Blobby.
Oh, no.
That was my thing. Yeah, but I was a kid. There was guns.
What, Blobby? You liked Blobby?
I had his fucking tape, his number 1 song. I played it on repeat in 1993, Chris.
I didn't know it existed. We've got to listen to some.
It definitely hit number 1.
What it's called?
I just type in Mr. Blobby song. I'm sure it's there.
I mean, I hated him. I've got it. 1993 Christmas #1.
Yeah, I told you that was my entire Christmas, over and over again.
I bet you drove your parents nuts, didn't you?
But that's their fucking problem. They bought it for me, so that's their fault.
That ungrateful little bastards.
I know. What can I say?
Right, here we go, people. I despise this, but you know, I've got 20 years on you, so I probably wasn't.
You'll last 20 seconds in this, by the way, and then you'll rage quit it. But
I really hope so, because if I like it, here's a video as well. Oh, it looks like it might be live. So this was a Christmas #1 in '93.
If I get it correct, I think so.
Yeah, no, it says it there, 1993 Christmas #1. I wasn't very compos mentis in '93. I couldn't see further than the end of my nose. So that explains a lot. Here we go. Dan's 1993 Christmas, people. Enjoy it with him.
I apologize in advance. It's very Lady Gaga right now.
I can only play about a minute, so hurry up. Oh my God.
Clocks in there, I think.
I can't. You're right. I've rage quit. That's what I couldn't stand about it. Oh God.
Yeah, that's what I used to love when I was a kid.
Yeah, but I suppose, like you say, you were probably like 5 or something, weren't you?
In '93, I was literally 3. Yeah.
Yeah, I was doing acid at the time, so that doesn't pass the acid test.
Well, watching that video is sort of like doing acid in a way.
Yeah, no, you see, things that are weird and peculiar on acid, they don't cut it because you know it's trying to be weird. What's more interested on acid is something that you're very familiar with. You know, like where I remember walking home the first time I ever done acid, I walked into my mum's front room and was just struck by the battle of tessellations. The carpet was patterned, the walls were patterned, the ceiling was patterned, and these weren't acid patterns. These were 70s carpet and 80s wallpaper, and it was just like, fucking hell, man, this is a migraine. You know, because it was usually so familiar to me. If I'd have watched that, I'd have probably put a hit out on, I don't know whether it would have been Edmonds or Blobby, but one of them.
Both of them, probably.
If you had to shoot one of them, would it be Blobby or Edmonds?
I don't know. I sort of think Blobby's innocent in all this. I think it's probably Edmonds that you've got to take out.
It on Edmonds. Good gosh. Right, here's an interesting little clip. Not only what they're saying, and this actually sort of fits in with what we're talking about of technology. This is kids talking. I think if I remember rightly, this is from about 1966. And they're talking about what they think it will be like in the future.
I've seen this as well. It's very good. It's very interesting.
There you go. Yeah, it kind of went round today. But it's not only what they say, but their beautiful articulation, the way they speak, and the way they've got like a respect for the authority that's talking to them. You know, they it's not fear, but they know their place. They're children, and they're being interviewed by adults. So let's have a little look at this. So I suppose a few more people have seen this than I would have assumed. But it's quite sweet, though. The girl's particularly sweet. It's just, well, they all are, but you know, you just don't get children like this anymore. They're horrible little bastards.
I think it'll be people will be regarded more as statistics than as actual people.
I don't think it's going to be so nice. I think sort of all machines everywhere, everyone doing everything for you. You know, you'll get all bored, and I don't think it'll be so nice.
First of all, there's computers are taking over now. Computers and automation. And in the year 2000, there just won't be enough jobs to go around. And the only jobs there will be for people with high HQ, you know, high IQ, who can work computers and such things. And other people are just not going to have jobs. There just aren't going to be jobs for them to have.
It's amazing prescience from, what are they, 10, 11? Do you reckon? I don't know. Amazing.
Yeah, and I saw there's a longer version of that out there somewhere. And just like you said, how articulate the kids are at that age. And they're not just saying things well. They're talking about high concept ideas whilst being articulate about them.
Yeah.
I mean, do that today with a 10-year-old. What are you going to get? Nothing.
Well, you know, Western Europe's IQ peaked in 1890, and it's been going down since. You know, that's when Conan Doyle was writing Sherlock Holmes. And like you say, you get kids today, you know, that was only, 60 years ago? I don't think you'll be hard-pressed to find a 10-year-old talk like that unless you went to some sort of private school. And people in the chat saying they're posh kids. I don't think they were. I think a lot of children spoke like that then. Not all, obviously. But obviously they're not housing estate gutter snipes, because they certainly didn't speak like that. But, you know, there you go. Right, so, Dan, do you know about, oh, God, I forgot. Oh, Taylor Lorenz, because this story intersects with your experience.
She is some doxing journalist who
right, there you go.
Lives of TikTok. That's
so she is exactly that. She's a libtard, leftard journo. And she doxed Libs of TikTok. If anyone doesn't know Libs of TikTok is, where have you been? But Libs of TikTok is a genius Twitter account, essentially, that all she does, it's a woman who runs it, all she does is plays clips of liberals from TikTok. Doesn't do a voiceover, doesn't put words, just gives them enough rope, so to speak. It's a genius account. And Taylor Lorenz doxed her family, had the press turning up at her family's house. You know, absolutely awful. And then a couple of weeks later, I think it was Libs of TikTok who found out where Taylor... No, it was supporters of Libs of TikTok, found out where Taylor Lorenz lived and doxed her. And she was on like CNN and NBC going, crying. Well, you'll see it. But look what happened. Look, the story gets better. It's quite a long clip, 2 or 3 minutes. But the next part of the story is beautiful. This is from a channel called The Liberal Hive Mind. Check it out. And this is happening in the last week, but it's definitely worth watching.
Of course, speaking of left-wing journos being suspended, and speaking of left-wing journos and doxing, finally their actions catch up to him. Who do you think we're talking about? Of course you know already. Taylor Lorenz has officially been suspended off of Twitter for her involvement in a prior doxing incident. You gotta love it. Of course she's gonna be back. It's temporary, but finally some more accountability. Let me show you guys exactly.
I'm just stopping that because it isn't actually confirmed that it's temporary. I read something today where, because it says suspended, she thinks she's coming back, but there's other people saying she might not be, and that they're looking at her case. So okay. I just wanted to make that clear. And don't forget, Dan, if you want to chip in, just tell me to stop.
No problem.
Exactly what's going on. We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. All right, folks, take a look at this. Elon Musk temporarily suspended Washington Post's Taylor Lorenz for, quote, prior doxing action. Journalist says her account was disabled after she requested comment from the billionaire on a story. Washington Post tech columnist Taylor Lorenz said her Twitter account was suspended Saturday after she tweeted a request for comment at Elon Musk, the tech mogul who was the social media network's new owner, on a story that she was working on. Lorenz's Twitter account, which she...
Sorry, I've just got to interrupt there because what beautiful... fuck, the brain fog is causing me trouble. But she had the arrogance to say, oh, I'm going to ask Elon Musk something because I'm a journalist. Right. So she's asked him. He's probably said to someone in his office, who's this Taylor Lorenz? And someone's probably said, oh, she doxed that Libs of TikTok and then made a video about her getting doxed. And he probably went, she doxed someone? And they went, yeah. And she went, oh, she's banned. So, some kind of justice there. That if she hadn't have tried to talk to him, he probably would have never known who she was.
Yeah, that's her own arrogance for you.
Exactly. I'll take it back a little bit so that it doesn't get confusing.
Musk, a tech mogul who was the social media network's new owner, on a story that she was working on. Lorenz's Twitter account, which she activated in 2010, had more than 340,000 followers. And yes, I was doing air quotes as I said followers, because most of those, as you'll find out later, are hate followers, but 340,000 followers before it was suspended. Quote, earlier tonight, Elon Musk suspended my Twitter account, she wrote on her Substack. I received zero communication from the company on why I was suspended or what terms I violated. Very, very hard to believe that they suspended her with zero communication or any reason. But here's what she had to say.
Hey guys, the rumors are true. I have been permanently suspended by Twitter. I was given zero reason, only had 3 tweets on my account. 2 of them were promoting my other social media channels, which you guys should follow. Taylor Lorenz at Instagram.com, taylorlorenz.substack.com, have a new YouTube channel. But yeah, I was suddenly logged out. I just had those 2 tweets and a tweet where I asked Elon for comment today, revealing zero information. Super crazy. Elon seems to be banning anyone he disagrees with, and I certainly didn't violate any terms that I was aware of. So that's the story right now, but follow me on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, pretty much every other social media.
And you can tell just how much of a sociopath Taylor Lorenz is. She's trying to use this whole thing to continue her grift, to get more attention. She honestly seems happy about it. She's got all of her little journalist friends on the task. Here's Shannon Watts, another mainstream media journalist. Elon Musk, a noted misogynist who has impregnated his female subordinates, suspended Taylor Lorenz, Washington Post tech columnist, after she tweeted a request for Musk's comment on a story, and Susan Lee of Fox Business for reporting on other suspensions. Yes, of course, more woe is me, I am the victim. Pretty soon we're going to have another one of these moments.
You feel like any little piece of information that gets out.
So that's after she got doxxed. After she doxxed libs of TikTok.
Out on you will be used by the worst people on the internet to destroy your life. It's horrifying.
She's so nauseating.
It's a crocodile tears as well, though. It's so fake.
Yeah, I mean, compare that to her last one. Oh, I've had my account suspended, but you can find me on every fucking social platform out there, ×3.
It's really hard.
Oh, woe is me, I'm such a victim. Meanwhile, this is the reality.
I have been permanently suspended by Twitter. I was given 0 reason.
It's a clear, dishonest, honest grift, but unfortunately for Taylor Lorenz, I don't think it's gonna work out for her in the end, because she's trying really hard to ride this thing to gain more notoriety and publicity, but it's just not working. You know, earlier when I was reading her 340,000 follower count.
So this is the denouement of all this.
And I said I was doing air quotes when reading that number, specifically because most of those followers are either bots or her detractors. She tried writing this news story by going live on what seems to be Instagram, not exactly sure, and it didn't exactly work in her favor.
Oh my God.
Right, so you probably can't read them, but like they're things like, tell the truth, you liar. Have you watched Murderville special on Netflix, yeah? Cry, you. And you know, she reckons she's got some like nearly 400,000 subscribers, and there's like 150 people watching her live stream, and every comment is slagging her off. So I'll just take that back, because her face when she realizes this isn't gonna go how she thinks is beautiful.
There it is.
Oh my God, this is just a bunch of Elon fans.
Yeah, that'll be it.
All right.
158.
Hi. Guys, I did have only 3 tweets because my tweets auto delete, and they have since 2014. Anyway, I do have to go. I love you guys, and it was so fun to get to chat with you.
160 live concurrent viewers. And
I just love it that she thought, right, I'll go live and I'll spin this and it'll work out for me, and she just, I'm hated. But
I honestly feel a bit sorry for her, not because I have sympathy for her, but she's so deluded. She doesn't even realize what she is or what she's doing. She's completely in the dark. It's one of these.
I mean, how can you cry about being doxxed when 2 weeks before you'd done it to someone else?
Well, that's the blind spot that they all have. Well, she would justify it in her head that libs of TikTok, which, like you said, is literally just a channel that reposts videos that other people make. There's no editing there at all. It's just, look at this. She would have justified that in her own head as, oh, this person's evil and deserves it. But I'm a good person and I don't deserve it. It's always very good versus evil with these people. And which is what happens with the activists being journalists, and I use journalists very loosely.
There you go. And I suppose it's just that it's the communist common good thing. You know, I'm allowed to do it because it's for the better of society.
Yeah, exactly.
It was like she said there, these are all Elon Musk fans. No, they just really don't like you. That's it. Anyway,
I love how Elon Musk is suddenly the devil just because he bought Twitter and balanced it a little bit. You know, before then he was like, oh, he's got Tesla. We all have Tesla. I bet she has a fucking Tesla in her driveway. It's amazing how quickly it flips for very superficial and activism reasons.
Yeah, they absolutely hate him. I do a meme drop on Twitter and get her every night, and there's so many Elon Musk tweets, and they're just brilliant. I think there's a little bit more of this here.
Single person in the comments section absolutely clowning on her. Seems as though the grift is coming to an end. And that's exactly what it is. She's trying to grift once again as the victim. Shannon Watts trying to create that narrative. Elon Musk, a noted misogynist, is going
who impregnated some of his subordinates.
Going after journalists who are merely tweeting for a request for Musk's comment on a story. Clearly, that's not the case. Here's the reality. Elon Musk bans Washington Post journalist Taylor Lorenz from Twitter for prior doxing behavior. In other words, the statute of limitations hasn't run out. And even though Taylor Lorenz very conveniently auto-deletes her tweets after, I think she said 14 hours, not exactly sure. Can't remember the number off the top of my head. But anyways, it was something like her tweets auto-delete after a certain period of time. Even though she does that, we still have the receipts, and clearly Twitter has the receipts. Taylor Lorenz is a serial doxer and terrible person. Taylor Lorenz slammed as a hypocrite for doxing libs of TikTok creator. Of course, we know the story. Taylor Lorenz outing the individual behind the libs of TikTok account and showing up at her parents' home. And to pretend as if this is the first time that she's ever done something like this, you'd have to be naive or just not paying attention. Taylor Lorenz has a history of not only journalistic malpractice, lying, defamation, hit pieces, but a history of doxing as well. She is an objectively bad person and an even worse journalist. Every single video that I make on Taylor Lorenz, I always say the same thing. Go watch this video if you haven't. Content Cop Taylor Lorenz Midwest Edition from Bost Wiki. To be completely honest with you,
absolutely worth watching, going to see that. If you haven't seen it, Content Cop Taylor Lorenz. I mean, they've really gone mad over on Twitter. I've started a new account. I lost my massive 9,000 account by being an idiot. But it's interesting that these people are doing this auto delete, isn't it? So that they can't, they think they can't be held to account. As if people don't screen grab them, as if Twitter don't have them on record. You know, it's,
yeah. I mean, what do they say? The internet is forever. You can't ever really scrub your own existence from it. Can I just Google Taylor Lorenz for a second? I want to know how old she is because I've got a few things to say about her.
Oh, I like
how old is she?
Go on, tell us. I'll just move this on to the next one. Oh, here we go.
She is. Oh, wait.
I say she was 32.
Really? Okay. Well, the thing is, I said before, I feel sorry for her. And I want to clarify, I don't have sympathy for her. But I think that she's just one of many of these types of women. And I will say women, because it seems to be them quite often, that have been mollycoddled through the university system into journalism. But they're not journalists, they're activists. And they've been funneled into this ecosystem where they get picked up by the Washington Post, which is extremely lefty. And they're just used as these attack dogs, essentially. They're sent out there to perform political hit pieces and to attack their enemies. And I don't even think she is self-aware enough to understand that, one, she has done the thing that she has had happen to her herself. And two, that she's been used by the very people that she is trying to defend, right? So that this liberal media establishment, she's been used by these institutions.
I think you nailed it, actually. Yeah. She's not clever enough to know what's going on.
No, I look at her and I think she's in her 30s, I think. And to me, she just looks like a teenager who is so naive about what's happened. She doesn't understand what has happened. I don't think she's a bad person. I think she's been groomed into that world and just been completely churned out. And now it's over for her. It's done.
So when we watch that and we think, you cheeky bitch, you doxed libs of TikTok, and now you're complaining that you got doxed. Do you think she doesn't understand why that's a bad thing?
I think she can't see it in the way that we see it because she's been in a system her entire life that has reinforced the idea that she is the good guy. That everything she does on behalf of the Washington Post or for journalism is for the greater good, like you were saying, the common good. I don't think she understands the wider context of everything that she's been involved
in. She doesn't know she's a useful idiot.
Yeah, and that's what a lot of them are. They are useful idiots. They're just getting used.
She will be sacrificed. They'll cut her off as soon as, you know, there's plenty of other idiots ready to replace her as soon as she starts working out what's happening.
Well, you see this all the time. She had, 300,000 followers on Twitter. Most of them are hate followers or bots, you know. And you see this a lot with these types of people. They have huge follower accounts, but their engagement on what they actually do is very low.
Yeah.
So in her mind, she probably thinks there's an army of people ready to step up to the plate and fight on her behalf. And she's not going to understand when that doesn't happen.
Well, when she got 153 and she was like, oh, okay, anyway, I've got to go because there was 150 people telling her to shut up. Loads of them were saying cry more.
Yeah, it's sad in a way, but...
Well, is it? No, if you're going to put yourself in the public eye and you're going to do things like dox libs of TikTok, you're in that game. I think that's fair play. Libs of TikTok didn't dox her.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like she struck, what's the phrase? She called first blood or whatever it is. And if you're going to play that game, expect it to happen to you. I think journalism has lost all its ethics, hasn't it? There's no ethics because, as you said, they're activists. There's no journalist ethics anymore.
Yeah, I mean,
they're arseholes.
She served her purpose for the 15 minutes of fame that she had. She served her purpose. Now she's been discarded, and there'll be someone else that pops up in that same mold in the next year or two. And
I mean, she's useless to the media now because she's just a lolcow. That's it. Yeah. She's made such a twat of herself. Okay, all right, good call. Ozmeister, thanks for that $5. I hope you like Terminator 2. I'll be gutted if you don't. Best action film of all time. I do prefer Terminator 1, but I do also like Terminator 2. So does that count? You a fan of Terminator films, Dan?
I'm like you. I prefer the first one. I think it's more... I like seeing Arnie as the villain because he plays it very well. I think Terminator 2, while it's really, really good, and James Cameron has he makes good sequels. He made Aliens to Alien, but I still prefer the first Alien, for example.
Now you see, I prefer Aliens to Alien.
Oh, and why is that? What is the thing about that?
I actually watched a documentary about James Cameron just yesterday, so this is kind of fresh. I do really like Alien. I do really like it. I mean, it's got that sort of Jaws thing about it, hasn't it? Where they don't overexpose the alien until quite near the end. So there's a lot of, real thriller storytelling. You don't know what's actually happening. I mean, by Aliens 10, it was just loads of fucking men in silly suits running around. It was like, come on.
Or when they did Predator versus Alien, and it's in an underground pyramid or something in Antarctica. It's like, what the fuck? This is so far removed from what it was.
The only things that relate to the first ones is the name of the film.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what I liked about it. Now, it's a bit of I've kind of contradicted myself because what I like about it is the continuing story. I loved the character of Bishop because he's not the android from the first one. He's not, but he is an android. And there's that lovely bit at the start where they do the knife game and he's like, and she says, you told me no bots, or you told me no androids, or whatever they call them, robots. You told me no, and it is actually a lovely story because he ends up being the hero, and it's kind of beautiful because in the first one he is the villain of the piece, the android, isn't he? But I'm going to admit this, and for someone who likes to have quite a pretension around art films, you can't beat that fucking walking machine fight with the alien. It's just incredible. Leave her alone, you bitch.
Oh yeah, that is pure 80s gold right there, isn't it? Yeah. But I think in terms of Terminator, I like Terminator 2 a lot, but the first one I think is better because you've got Kyle Reese, who's just a man, and he's up against the fucking Terminator. In Terminator 2, you've got the Terminator against another Terminator. and sure, it's better, it's newer. He's a liquid Terminator, but that level of threat there wasn't there for me. Terminator 1, I think, is much more tense.
That really makes sense, because if Arnie gets anywhere near you, you're fucked. And it's most of the film is about avoiding him. Whereas in the second one, there's the bit where Sarah Connor. I mean, I do like the character development of Sarah Connor. In the first one, she's all right, but her character growth over the 2 movies is incredible. When she's one arm's damaged, so she's having to reload that shotty with one hand. The old.
Oh yeah, no, that's great. I mean, that's what James Cameron does quite well. He develops people into, interesting and logical steps forward from where they
grow. They grow.
Yeah, but again, Terminator 2. There's plenty of scenes where John Connor can just hide behind Arnold's big back, and Arnold's big back just gets shot with like 1 million bullets. It's like, oh, you've got a huge robotic shield there. Whereas in the first one, I mean, there's the scene in the club in the first one where Kyle Reese is desperately trying to get Sarah Connor out of there, and there's just people getting blasted left, right, just innocent people all over the place. And then when he destroys the police station, it's much, much scarier, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think so. Did you know that Arnold Schwarzenegger originally went to read for, I can't remember his name, you said it a couple of times.
Kyle Reese, the hero.
Yeah, the good guy.
Yeah.
He was originally going to be him.
Yeah, that wouldn't have worked, would it?
No, well, apparently James Cameron said he just looked at his face and thought the thing about Arnold Schwarzenegger, he was still doing his Mr. Universe. He was ripped to fuck. And this was like in the years before all your roids and all that. Well, not really, but not like there is today where you just get these absolute monsters. He was a specimen, wasn't he? And James Cameron said the reason he thought that Arnie should be the Terminator is because this man will just walk through you. Even when he lands and he's got no clothes on, it doesn't matter. He's just going to, whatever weapons you've got, you get the feeling he's just a brick shithouse, and he'll get what he wants. And when he turns up in that film, every time, and Sarah Connor's like, oh, and you just think, oh, fuck it, he embodies power, doesn't he?
I remember when was it? 2003, I think. I was a teenager, and Terminator 3 was coming out. And I saw the trailer for it. And keep in mind, the last Terminator film at this point was 10 years ago with Terminator 2. And they did the thing where it's like, it's a female Terminator now. And it was almost like a comedy. There's a bit where she gets pulled over by the cops and she inflates her own tits to get out of a ticket.
Oh, yeah.
It's just like, you forget how terrible these sequels were. And there's like 3 more after that one. I don't even know if I've seen them, to be honest.
I think I stopped watching the third one. I mean, I did like that sort of liquid metal one, and I thought it was great casting, but he just didn't even, like you said, even though he was more powerful, he didn't give you the fear that Arnie did. Arnie was a frightening thing to turn up in your world, I think.
Yeah. What do you think of James Cameron in general? Because Avatar 2's just come out, but I've never even seen Avatar. It just never appealed to me.
I've never seen Avatar.
It doesn't seem like it's my sort of thing.
It's an interesting, not the film, but like I say, because I watched this documentary about him, and it was just one of those off the cuff. I just thought, I'll watch that. What? I thought I'll just watch it. And it's weird because when he made Terminator, the budget was next to nothing. They're real effects. There was no CGI, none in Terminator.
Yeah.
And then by Terminator 2, obviously there was. And then he went on to make The Abyss, and they had to set up a company that was a computer graphics for movies company, and The Abyss was almost like an advert for the kind of CG they can do now.
Yeah.
And then he goes on to talk about how Avatar was almost a bit more of that. They were putting all this makeup and stuff on, and someone just said, hang on a minute, can't we just make these? Can't we just make them out of computers now? And so it's quite his story of his filmmaking story kind of connects back to what we were talking about technology. That his output was defined by the technology he had available.
Yes, it's almost like George Lucas in a way. He went full on just off the deep end with that stuff, and it was very disappointing.
Well, do you remember how beautiful it was? I mean, you'd have probably been a bit young, but I went to see Star Wars at the cinema with my dad, and it was just heaven. This is I've never seen anything like it. And in all the promotional stuff that was on telly, and they really built it up. They were showing you that they had bits of fishing line, catgut.
Yeah.
And they'd stretch it across the studio. They'd have a little X-wing fighter, that big, with a little hook on this bit of catgut, and the camera would be on some rails, and then they'd just give it a little push, and then they'd roll it, and this X-wing's just sort of going down a bit of wire, literally. And then, of course, John Williams, ba 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 ba, and then a little bit of background put in, and then cut to him in the thing. They're coming in too fast, and you were like, "Fucking hell, man!" And then when you're at the cinema, I didn't know at like 7 years old that it was amazing that they were making them all out of models. But I did know, sort of 5 years later, that it was starting to lose something. Because, there's even that bit in Terminator 1 where he's repairing his face, and you can tell it's just covered in mud. He's like, But there's something nice about that. It's something real about it.
Yeah, you accept it. I mean, you look at it now, and it looks old and corny and very 80s, but you accept it because at least there's effort put behind it. If they did that today, it would just be computer generated, and it could be done in a week. But the thing about models is, I watched 2001: A Space Odyssey again recently.
Yeah,
from Stanley Kubrick, and that's all model work. It still holds up today.
Thanks for telling me who directed Space Odyssey. Cheers.
Yeah, I'm educating you. He also did a film called The Shining. I don't know if you've heard.
Okay, I'll look it up.
But the models in Space Odyssey still hold up today, and I'm like, Christ, this looks better than all that fucking Marvel stuff. It honestly, it's amazing. Yeah, and the craft behind it just doesn't exist anymore in that industry.
And there you go. Something's gained, something's lost. And I think as directors, as storytellers, you have to work out what you're prepared to sacrifice for what you're prepared to gain. I mean, I remember when the what are they called? Transformers films come out. Now the Transformers were part of my childhood.
Yeah.
So I was kind of into what I wanted to see Optimus Prime transform, and they had all that lovely noise, that and all that, But as I was watching the first one, I think it was, what's the one with Megan Fox in it? Sorry, you're gonna have a go at me for talking about it.
I remember seeing it. It was it was the first two, I think. She's in
when she leans over the car.
Well, that's just classic Michael Bay, isn't it? All of his films are like that.
Don't knock it. They've got rid of the darts girls. There's no ring girls in England.
There's no F1 grid girls anymore. They got rid of them.
I know. No, good, nice one. Feminism. Loads of unemployed women just because they're hot. Now, but what I realised when I was watching that Terminator movie was I couldn't actually see the Transformers. You can see it when it's the car. You can see it when it's the robot. But the exciting bit where they transform, you can't see it. It's it's like a blur of nothing because it's all CG. There's no actual parts moving or changing. And it started really irritating me because I just thought, you haven't got the technology for this. You haven't. You'd have been better off doing this. I mean, do you remember Clash of the Titans? That's well before your time. But the skeletons were stop frame animation.
Yeah.
And they looked like it. They were sort of like, jerking around, and the actor wasn't, and he looked like a normal bit of film. But there was something, like you say, there was something of the craft of filmmaking.
Yeah.
That in that, if you're going to show me a car turn into a fucking massive robot, I want to see it do that. But I ask all of you, if you're interested in this at all, go back and watch some of those. You can't see it. They it's a lie. It's a blag. It's just a confusion of something. And I just remember feeling that that's not working. That's not working for me.
No, I know we're getting sidetracked talking about films here, but I think
No,
I mean
it's
I'm a film buff, not so much anymore
Exactly.
because there's nothing coming out that I'm. I mean, it's like going through a dry spell. There's nothing happening at the minute that you're excited about. But looking at all of these films from the 70s and the 80s, it's like that's been lost now, hasn't it? That care, that attention, that craft, and even some in the 90s, I think.
Did you see what is it? The lighthouse keeper, is it? Or the lighthouse?
With that guy from Twilight, what's his face? What's his name?
Oh, I'm thinking.
Was it black and white? It's a black and white film, isn't it?
Yeah, kind of. What is it? He's a very famous actor. He's in one of the Spider-Man movies as the Green Goblin, I think.
Yeah, it's what Willem Dafoe.
That was a decent movie. I'll tell you what I watched today that I'd never watched before. The movie based on Irving Welsh's book Filth. Now, I don't rate Trainspotting. It's an entertaining movie, but that's about all it is. But I watched Filth and I was quite impressed. I thought that was quite a good movie. I was quite impressed with Filth. I don't know if you've seen it.
Is that with the James McAvoy?
That's it, yeah.
Yeah. I think I saw it when it came out, but I can't remember anything about it, if I'm honest. I just knew it was a sequel to Trainspotting, or it was related to Trainspotting in some way.
Well, it's Irving Welsh wrote it, wasn't it?
Yeah,
He was dining out on his newfound film. Just quickly going back to Terminator, the poster for Terminator 2 is probably the most iconic film poster ever. Well, I'd argue that, but we'll have a look at it. So, what movies are you watching, Dan? We had a film stream the other night, and I remembered Santa Sangria. I don't know if you've seen it. Alex Jodorowsky's Santa Sangria, all magic realism about a child who's part of the circus and relationship with his father and his mother and all that sort of stuff. Gorgeous movie.
What am I watching? I mean, not much, to be honest. Nothing new.
Well, that was going to be my next question. Are you looking at contemporary movies? Are you wanting? Because I don't think we're going to get any decent big budget movies for a long time. I just think there's too much propaganda required at the moment by the left to be funding people who are actually asking important questions. I just can't see it happening.
Well, this gets into the whole critical drinker territory, which I think we've talked about before. And that whole economy on YouTube where you have all of these film critics and they are bemoaning the state of the industry.
Yeah.
And I agree with them. I'm not saying that nothing good ever comes out anymore, but I think it is difficult to watch these things without seeing it through that political lens. Because, I mean, Hollywood has rules in place now where if a film's being made, it has to have X amount of this type of minority employee, this X amount of women working on it, cast members who fit these checkboxes.
I think it's to win awards, isn't it? If you want to get an Oscar or an Academy Award, you have to have, you've got to have a certain amount of diversity in the cast or the crew and all that lark, which is, I mean, what a piss take out of everyone, but most of all the audience. Yeah, Ozmeister, sorry to interrupt, Dan, just quickly. Ozmeister, is this the one you're talking about? This doesn't look very iconic to me, but it might be. You mean that one?
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah.
I don't know if that's an iconic. I get it, but
wait a minute. Terminator 2 was PG. I don't believe that. Surely not.
I don't know. There's not a lot of blood or anything in it, is it?
But
I mean,
it's ultra violent. So people get murdered all the time. Can't be PG.
But interestingly, if there's no blood, was it PG? Let's find out. Let's find out. Terminator 2. rating. 782 rating. Come on, computer, you can do it. Where would I find that? Surely there. I can't seem to find it. Rating R. But I imagine it was different in different countries.
I think over here that would have been a 15 at least.
It's fucking madness, isn't it? I mean, in the internet age, as if you can stop people watching films. If you can watch a woman having 2 cocks in her ass, you can watch Terminator 2. Jesus, it's ridiculous. I stopped watching porn, Dan. It's now been nearly 3 years, and one of the best things I ever did. You know, I hardwired my brain on years of chemical sex.
Right. Well,
speed.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because it's all about dopamine hits with stuff like pornography.
Yeah.
And they say, I mean, I'm not an expert on this, but they say that guys who watch a lot of porn, they can't really hold down healthy relationships with actual women.
Yeah,
because they don't get the ones. No, because they're always looking for those dopamine spikes, and that's just not how real life is when you're in a regular relationship. It's not excitement every minute of every day.
Well, it's not only that. I mean, sex is usually about 2 people, and pornography is essentially 1 person. So you develop this sexuality of 1.
Right.
And then when there's a woman involved, I mean, I know this from experience. I would have girlfriends, bless them, and our sex life wasn't 2 people. It was me wanking, not literally, but me wanking using another human person, a human as all.
Right. I understand.
You know, and that's not nice. It's not nice for them. It's not nice for you. It doesn't. You know, when you're going on for 3 or 4 days, filling yourself up with more speed to keep the illusion alive. And even when I stopped, it took me years. I stopped doing the speed, and I stopped having sex like that. But I just wasn't into sex because I'd hardwired my brain, and that's what they say happens because dopamine pathways. It's dose, isn't it? Dopamine, my mate told me this little one the other day. Serotonin, endorphins, but those pathways are actually hardwired, and it takes a significant amount of time to put them back. And I'm so glad I have, because I can remember, I won't go into the details, but I can remember the time when I actually had sex with someone that involved 2 people. You know, there had been sex with another person plenty of times, but it actually felt like someone else was present, and it felt like getting clean. Like getting clean from drugs. It was like I've got over something that damaged me there, and you know, women put up with that as well. Women, I've had girlfriends. I had a girlfriend for 11 years that put up with that sort of sex life.
You're fortunate in a way that you weren't in your early to mid 20s when Tinder came out. I think you would have that would have just been an extension of this issue.
Well, you know, interestingly, what I started doing was seeing prostitutes, but I ended up, you know, and this isn't weird. This isn't anomalous. This is very typical, and I know that because I know loads of prostitutes. I would see prostitutes for sexual intimacy because I'd lost that with my partners, because I expected a pornographic kind of relationship. But with a prostitute, because I didn't know her, because there wasn't a risk, I could be intimate with them. And I've been with prostitutes as girlfriends, and the amount of them who say that a lot of their clients are like that. You know, they turn up the first time they have sex because that's expected, and the second time it's, do you want to go to a restaurant?
Right. Yeah.
You know.
But I've heard stories about these webcam shows, and a lot of the guys that go there, they're not even saying stuff like, "I'll take your top off" or anything. It's, can you just have a conversation with me?
Yeah.
Because I'm getting ignored by my wife. It's not working. So can you just ask me about my day, please.
Well, yeah. And what books do you like? What sort of things you're into?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. This conversation keeps circling back to technology, doesn't it?
Technology. There you go. Yeah. Here we go. Talking about the World Cup. You might have seen this. Thank you, Ozmeister, for that last donation. I'll check to see if any more have come through, people. So if you have donated and I haven't called it out, I will keep an eye on them. Keep the grift up, people. I have been going for over 2 hours. Right, have a look at this, Dan. Oh, by the way, Dan, once you've had enough, say, because I'll just keep going because it's such a treat to have you here.
Oh, that's fine. I don't want to cross over with millennials, so I don't know when that starts, actually. Maybe another half an hour. I don't know.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'll check this out. This is Argentinian fans singing a song. It's subtitled, though.
Okay.
I might have to see if I can get rid of that. Why can't I get rid of that? Oh, there you go. Here we go. I'll mute myself.
Francia. Vale, escuche. Corra la bola. Juegan en Francia, pero son todos de Angola. Qué lindo es, van a correr. Somos metraba como el puto de Mbappé.
Jesus.
Nigeriana, su viejo camelón. No, bueno. En el documento. No, bueno. Nacionalidad. Chao, listo, no. Censurada.
I mean, 4 of the. That's actually not as bad as. That's not as bad. The first French team that played, only 3 of them were born in France.
Wow.
Now, this does ask a question, doesn't it? How farcical does multiculturalism, does globalism make globalist sporting events? Because if only, what's that? So 8 of the starting 11 weren't born in France.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a French team? I don't know. Because on the other side of it, people say, you don't have to be born somewhere to be English or whatever. Or people say, yeah, but I was born here. I might have Chinese parents and look Oriental, but I was born here.
Mm-hmm.
What? So you can literally have it both ways. Well, I wasn't born here, but I've lived here most of my life. So you could, with let's be honest, mainly Europe. With Europe, you don't have to have been born there, or you can have been born there. Either way, you can claim it as your ethnicity, as your nation.
Yeah, well, it's gold medals in mental gymnastics, isn't it, really? Take someone like Raheem Sterling for England. He was born in Jamaica to Jamaican parents, and then he moved over here when he was a kid. And I'm told that I have to believe he's as English as I am. It's just, it's a farce, isn't it?
Yeah.
This is why it didn't really matter to me who won the World Cup, but I was rooting for Argentina.
Yeah.
Partly because of the Messi thing. Yeah, the Messi thing as well, but because I looked at the French team, and by the end, the only white guy on the pitch was the goalkeeper.
Well, in 20 years, the World Cup is just going to be like club football, because I doubt you're going to have many countries that are representative of their actual ethnicity.
Yeah.
If you take somewhere like, I don't know, Singapore, for instance, where they're not on the whole built for football, and they just literally go to Africa, find a load of 6'5" blokes who can run 100 miles an hour and train up a football team.
Yeah.
And then when it comes to the World Cup, here they are. No, they're Singaporeans. Well, look at the French team. What are you saying, racist? And it like you say, it's just farcical.
Well, I even saw complaints from the opposite side about this very thing. The Moroccan team, for example. I saw online on Twitter a lot of Moroccan fans saying these people aren't actually Moroccan. Their ancestry is from Spain and things like that in Portugal. So it's actually happening the other way as well, which I found very interesting.
I'm not understanding that. Isn't that the same way as this?
No, but I'm saying because we look at this from a European perspective. So the French team is like we look at that and say, well, none of these people are French.
Right, okay.
But I'm saying even non-white countries are looking at their teams now and saying, well, they're not really Moroccan either. So it's this whole thing going on. So it's just adding to the farce that is nationality and international football.
Well, I mean, it's happened with club football, and we've just adjusted. I mean, you know, Woolwich Arsenal were once the people that worked at Woolwich Arsenal, and now they've got players. I mean, I think we've got 5 Brazilians at Arsenal at the moment. It's quite funny though. We've got a Jesus, a Mohammed, and a Gabriel. but you know, people have just accepted that now. I mean, a lot of the older people haven't. You know, I talk to older football fans, and they're just sort of like, you know, that there's no Arsenal left, is there? And you're like, yeah, I kind of get where you're coming from.
But you know, when I was growing up in the 90s, Arsenal, we always used to look, because being in the Northeast, our teams were quite homogenous for a while. But you look at a team like Arsenal, and it wasn't necessarily the multiracial thing, but you had a lot of French players, especially when Arsene Wenger was there in the 90s. And we used to look at Arsenal and be like, oh, yeah, North London, sure, okay. You know, there was that snide attitude back then even. And I was a kid, and even I understood that. It was sort of a laugh. And then... Ironically now, though, Arsenal does look like North London. Right, yeah. Isn't that amazing? That's how the tables have turned. Yeah, but I mean,
just checking out.
There's some teams like Croatia that are still, you know, pure, but African migrants aren't getting imported into Croatia like they are in France. So
yeah, there you go. If someone in the chat could check out the schedule for Millennial, that would be really handy, because I don't want to tread on Wose's toes. If someone could go to there's a page that shows when it all is. Oh, it's in my emails, but that'll be a pain in the ass to dig it out. But if someone could find out when the first Millennial is on today, that would be helpful.
It's probably 8 o'clock, isn't it? Probably about 8 o'clock.
I don't know. We're nearly there if it is. Oh, there you go. You says about 45 minutes. Pure Nomad says 9 tonight. So what's that? Another 45 minutes?
Yeah, let's just go. Yeah, 45 minutes.
All right. Here we go. Well, let's see what the next clip is. I'm sorry. This wasn't meant to happen. This was the end of the clip before it, but I'm going to put it on anyway. I can't actually remember what the clip is, but I will. If it requires stopping, I'll stop it. But apologies, Dan. It's another lady. But that was the end. It was quite a funny clip, actually. These two absolute salts were sitting like on the beach, and they got someone to sort of video them. And this wave come in and just nearly killed them. It was quite something. But I thought it was just a little bit indulgent. So I don't actually know what the next clip is. Let's have a go.
Jesus. What on
earth? Do you want to see that again? I mean, I don't know what it is. He's obviously in some kind of tent that's suspended or something. It's not on the ground. And somehow gets dragged away. I mean, look how low the floor is under him.
It's the scream when he falls through. That's the funny thing.
Yeah. When he realizes he's in real trouble. Okay, so as someone who lives in Cambodia, you wouldn't have heard all the stories I've had to deal with, like chucking out a dustbin bag that ended up that I've suddenly realized was full of about 30 rats that were climbing out of it. I've had to deal with some incidents out here, so I thought I'd put this one up. This is in Thailand. Okay, so let's have a look at this.
5-year-old man in Bangkok, Thailand was watching TV in his lounge when he heard some hissing sounds coming out of his living room wall. Having no idea of the terrible situation he was in, he called for help. The rescuers came in and decided to break the plasterboard wall, but what came out of it sent chills down the spine of everyone there.
Fuck that.
It was a huge python living in that wall for God knows how long. Rescuers tried getting it out, but it stubbornly remained inside the wall.
Jesus Christ.
You wait to see how big it is.
When the snake finally did come out, it measured to be 15 feet in length and was transported back to the wild.
Where's Steve Irwin when you need him, eh?
I mean, I've had some quite unpleasant incidents out here. Nowhere near as many as I thought I'd have. When I go and stay in the provinces with a girlfriend's family, she's got like a mosquito net, and she got it for me because like you get the Tokai lizards, and you know these Tokai lizards are about 1.5 foot long. I've just lost the batteries in one ear. These Tokai lizards are about 1.5 foot long, and they will bite you. They're not poison or anything, but if they get on you, they'll give you a little nibble. And this thing was blue with red spots. You know, it's
right.
And sometimes the kids go out into the they've just completely died now. The kids will go out into the jungle behind where the houses are, and they'll come back with snakes that they just stick on sticks and chuck on the barbecue. It's quite challenging, you know, when you come from somewhere like England, where, I mean, what's the most dangerous thing in England? Your neighbour's pit bull, I suppose.
Yeah, well, pit bulls are actually banned, aren't they? But yeah, that's one of the reasons why I never want to go to Australia.
Yeah,
I just don't. I know it sounds a bit pathetic, but I don't want to have to deal with that stuff on a daily basis. It's just not my thing.
Well, Dawn Browning is an English lady who moved out there and is absolutely loving it. Been out there, I think, over 10 years now. Probably, I don't know exactly. But a friend of a friend told my friend, he emigrated to Australia, and he said there's a simple rule. You don't put your hand anywhere you can't see.
Right.
And I've used that over here. Like if something goes down the back of my wardrobe over there, I won't start just digging my hand around there because, you know, you don't know what they'll be.
So if I can ask you something, because you've lived there for a few years now, so you must have some experiences. What's the worst experience you've had with, well, I don't know, with an animal or an insect?
The bag of rats was awful. I mean, I took my bin bag outside because it was smelly, you know, because of the temperatures out here. If you don't throw your bin bag away within the 2 days, it stinks and it will be crawling with maggots inside flies. So you have to do it. And I thought, come on, let's do this. So I've got it, and I've just wound up I didn't tie a knot in it, put it just outside my door, which is just there. And I thought, right, get some shoes on, t-shirt or something. And as I was getting dressed, I could hear and I've looked at it, and there's a rat about that big. Like they're big. That's before the tail, right? And it's made a hole in it, and it's just grabbing food. And I thought, fuck me, it's only been out there for a couple of seconds. So I kicked the window a couple of times, like, oh, fuck off, and it sort of sprinted off. Got dressed, got out there, grabbed hold of the bag, and as I've walked down the stairs, I've realised that the bag is quite active. And I just thought, what the fuck? And then I've sort of kicked it, and it was like the Pied Piper of Hamelin. About 15 rats run out of it. Oh, now, nice. To this day, I don't know whether they got in there while I was getting dressed, or whether they got in the house and they'd been in there all night, just feasting on whatever was in there. Yeah,
that's I don't like stuff like this at all. I don't really mind rats, but obviously in that situation, it's not very pleasant.
I got a rat stuck in my motorbike wheel, and it just went and sort of splattered me with the most ungodly substance I've ever seen. But the worst one, I'd been here a week. There was scratching in all the walls. I could hear in all the walls. I went to bed that night. I could hear something. I could hear it moving. So it would be over there going, and then, And the next day, I said to my landlord, look, mate, I said, there's things living in the walls. It's driving me mad. And every time I walked into a room, I'd hear all the cockroaches like scutter away. And the cockroaches out here are like that. And some of them will jump as high as your face. They've got these wings. They can't fly. They will in about 5 or 10 years, though, because they develop so quickly. He said, it's all right, I'll sort it out. He sent a bloke round with a can of Raid, which is like an anti-insect spray. And I was like, no, that ain't going to cut it. That night, I went into my bedroom. No, before I went into my bedroom, I spoke to a mate in England who works for Rent-A-Kill. And he said, I'll tell you what you've got going on. He said, it happens in England. He said, the chances are you've got cockroaches living in between the bottom floor and the top floor. And they will eat their own shit. They will eat the rat shit, but then the rats will eat the cockroaches. And what you've got is a self-sustaining biosystem, because both of them are going out and bringing food in. And so they're both feeding each other. He said that whole place needs fumigating. He said a bottle of Raid ain't going to do it. And that, I started going mental. I realised how people get freaked out by these things. There was fucking. I put the aircon on and like 4 cockroaches would fall out and just scamper across the floor. And this was the first property I had here, and I remember thinking, I can't live here. I can't. And then that night, I got into my bedroom, and I lifted up my pillow, and there was a spider the size of my hand.
Oh shit!
On my pillow, there's 2 pillows. And I know, because I'm terrified of spiders, I know that if I don't kill that, I don't want to kill it, but I know that if I don't, I won't sleep in that house that night. I'll go and get a hotel. Because if I know that's in there, now, that was my first thought. So, grab my sandal, get the old Birkenstock out. But then I thought, hang on a minute, I don't know how poisonous, this ain't a British harvest spider that is going to do nothing. This could, we have tarantulas out here. Yeah. This could be very dangerous. And just as I thought that, the fucker ran across the bed at the speed of light, jumped off the bed onto the wall, and I was just having a mental breakdown by this point. And I managed to get it, and it was weird. It fell down, and as it hit the floor, it was started off about that big, and it just went, as its legs all just sort of pulled in.
Oh.
Yeah, and I rang up my landlord. I said, you need to put me in another property now.
Jesus
and he come
Christ.
round and put me in the little room upstairs. So I think the spider was worse than the rats.
I've got a similar story.
Touch wood and whistle. I haven't seen another spider since I've been here, and it's nearly 5 years now. So
I've got a similar story to that. Not as terrifying as that, or maybe it is actually. When I was younger, in my early 20s, I spent a lot of time in America, actually. And one summer I worked there in Arizona. It was one of those summer camps, Camp America, that sort of thing. So you go over there and you work. Right. Yeah, you work in a summer camp for about 3 months. I was in Arizona, and I was sleeping in this with like 3 other English guys who also worked in the kitchen. We were sleeping in this.
Sorry, Dan. Whereabouts in America was this?
Arizona.
Amazing.
Yeah. Well, so I've been there quite a lot, and me and 3 other English guys were sleeping in this shanty lodge. Basically, it was falling apart at the seams, and we'd get up at 6 a.m. every day, work in the kitchen until 10 o'clock at night. It's the most exhausting. Honestly, I was exhausted by the time I finished that job. It was fucking horrendous. It was basically slave labor, because we worked it out, and we were getting paid like $1 an hour when you worked it out. Okay. Anyway, so all of these days were gruesome. And Arizona, if anyone's been there, is so hot. It is unbelievable. Never felt anything like it. I'd get back to this wooden cabin every night at about 11 o'clock. And one night I got in there. I was so tired. I'm just going straight to bed. So I had my fucking pajamas. And I put my pajamas on. I got in bed.
Northern boy took his pajamas. That's so sweet.
I did. Home comforts. And I'm lying in bed, and I'm trying to get to sleep, and I'm thinking, this is something. Am I itchy? Do I have a spot or something? And I'm scratching my leg, and I feel this lump. And I'm like, oh, what have I been bitten by something? Because I get bitten by mosquitoes every now and then, and it would swell up. No big deal. And I'm like, no, this is way bigger than that. And then it started moving.
Oh, fuck off, man! This is already way worse than my spider
I swear
story.
to God, I jumped up, I flung my fucking pajamas off, so I'm arse naked in this cabin. I throw these off, and there's a huge fucking spider in my pajamas. That was literally.
Oh, I thought you were going to say it was in your skin, like one of those.
No. Oh no. Well, that would have been worse. But it was like 2 centimeters away from my bollocks, right? Inside my pajamas, and all the other guys woke up and ran in, and we had to devise a plan to get this thing out of there. And it was.
So it was a spider bite.
It was a huge. Well, I didn't get bitten by it, thankfully, but it was just in my.
Oh, hang on. So when you scratched your leg, you scratched the spider's back.
Yeah. And I don't know.
Hell, man.
And I thought it's a miracle that I never got bitten. Now there are tarantulas in Arizona. I've just Googled it. Right. I don't know if it was, but it was certainly fucking big enough to be one. And that's the worst story that I've ever had with something like that. But yeah, I'm quite happy in England actually. And in Europe.
Out here, if you think you see something moving out the corner of your eye, you usually are. That's one thing. Like I had this insect come in, this flying insect, big old thing it was, about 3 inches across. And I've just thought, I don't like killing animals and that, but because I don't know the fatality potential of them. And I've got my Birkenstock off, and my girlfriend said, no. She went, him bite you. You dead. Right?
Okay.
And so I just said, what do we do? She said, you've got to let it go. And she also said, if you scare it, she said, oh, it was so sweet. Her English wasn't so good then. She said, you make him scare, him friends come. I looked it up online. If you scare this particular flying insect, it lets out some pheromones or some shit. And it will swarm. Its mates will come because it considers it in danger. Yeah, I mean, if she wasn't here and I was starting going, "Oi, you get the old Daily Mail out, oi, you little bastard," and then fucking 500 of them come through the window. Yeah, and I had a black. I've seen 2 of these, like a millipede, about that big, black, that you hear before you see. And my girlfriend said, if he bites you, you have to go to hospital and get an antidote.
Mm.
But from someone who's been here 5 years, 1 spider, 2 millipedes, and not anywhere near what I thought it would be. But the one thing I learned in that first house was my landlord said to me, don't get a place on the ground floor. That's my advice to you.
Okay.
And since then, I lived up there before, and now here, and this is the first floor, and 2 or 3 cockroaches I've seen in the last year. So keep the place clean.
Not bad. Yeah, that's not bad.
Oh yeah, Willow's just pointed out I do get monkeys in the garden frequently.
Oh, but everyone likes monkeys, right?
There you go, walking down the street. They can be pretty vicious, though. You've got to be a bit careful. From the monkeys. Right, moving on. Remember Milo, transgender Milo. She was one of the original libs of YouTube, we could say.
Wait, hang on. Sorry, transgender. It rings a bell, but not Yiannopoulos.
Not Milo Yiannopoulos. Yeah, I'll show you. You'll remember straight away.
It rings a bell.
She was a massive figure of ridicule. Yeah, remember?
Oh, yeah, I remember this.
Well, she's still at it, but she thinks she's now a bloke.
Interesting.
She's had her tits chopped off. She's got some kind of peculiar Frankfurter swinging down there. I don't know the full story. That could be. I could have got some of those details wrong, but she also then, because I researched it because I was interested. She's been going through a phase where she's neither male or female, then she's both, blah blah blah. But I just thought it'd be interesting to watch a bit because this is now 6 years on, and I found this clip, and she's one of what's his name, Justin Riley, who changes Riley Dennis.
Oh,
who's that bloke who's a lesbian? he's a transgender bloke. Yeah, all right, mate. Nice.
Yeah, whatever he says. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, he's still making content, but it's just him and his heterosexual girlfriend walking around nice places and, you know, doing holiday reports. But Milo's one of the last remaining sort of bedroom lesbos, we'll say for laughs, who's still going. So I just thought it'd be interesting to see what she's up to. So here we go.
All right.
Let's see.
No sound, mate.
You know, has
no audio.
Yeah, it's popping in and out. I don't know why. So.
Oh, that's interesting. You didn't miss much. But yeah, you can hear her voice. She thinks it's a man's voice. It's absolutely ridiculous. Let me know about the sound, Dan, or people in the chat as well, because it might be different for you.
Been like this for a while. It was never really functional, but this is not a way that we can get justice. And I think it's really important to be talking about abolition right now. If you want to support currently and formerly incarcerated Black and Indigenous, trans and gender nonconforming.
I mean, right, so she's talking about abolitions of prisons. Right. You know, do they just give these people a textbook? Right, you've done your trans bit. Now start talking about the abolition of prisons because there's too many Black people in them. It's so fucking predictable. I mean, you don't need AI when you've got people like this.
You know what I was going to say? Because I can basically predict everything she's going to say here, or he's going to say. I don't even know what the fuck it is. But look, you know how we say that the lines between reality and satire have become so blurred that you don't know where the actual border is.
Yeah.
If I was going to, let's just say I was a comedian and I was going to invent a character to take the piss out of this entire thing, it would be this person.
Yeah.
And it would be easy to do. But these people actually exist. It's unbelievable.
This is her life. And you know, it's weird actually. I feel sorry for this person because she's got some really heavy shit going on. And, you know, Infamous T is in the chat. I don't know if he's still here. Infamous T went through a bit of an identity crisis as a young man, right? And the LGBT, you won't mind me saying this, he come on and I interviewed him about it. A fucking amazing story. What was then the LGB, I think, just LGB, they just pounced on him. It's all right. They are, look. There he is there. And they pounced on him and just said, you're female, mate. You're female. And, you know, when you get someone who's struggling with their emotions and their identity and you've got enough of these people around you and they become your social group, they become your peer group, and they persuaded him to transition. And this is going back a long time. And I don't know if you've seen Metacore's video about how sausages are made, where he shows you what actually goes on in these operations. Well,
yeah, that's a classic, that one. Yeah.
Yeah, well, imagine what it was like 40-odd years ago. And I said to Infamous T, I said, what do you think about all this now? And he said, and it broke my heart. He said to me, I'm just an old man without a cock.
Wow.
It's just, and we're gonna have so many of these people, so many of them who are just, you know, just listen to her. Listen to what she says. She's talking about, she wants to abolish prisons.
Want to support currently and formerly incarcerated Black and Indigenous, trans and gender nonconforming people. I'm going to link a fundraiser down below. And I'm also going to include a different list of resources on abolition. If that is something that you would like to do more reading on, I would recommend that you do. Definitely center the voices of Black people and currently and formerly incarcerated people in the research that you were doing. But
I mean, center the voices of incarcerated Black people. I mean, okay, if that's your position, that's fine. But nowhere does she or he or they tell you why. And I looked for it.
Yeah. I think we need to get her and Taylor the Wrens in a room together so they can have a therapy session.
They'll be sticking their fingers up each other's bums and trying to work out what it is.
That's just my 2 cents. Thanks for watching. Peace.
But still at it. Absolute madness.
And, you know, you can tell that she's very unhappy. You know, that last shot where she said, peace. It's like, you're not fooling me. You are not fooling me. You are not upbeat about life. You seem really worn out.
Yeah, all her videos have got... You've nailed it, actually, Dan. That's very, very observant of you, because I watched a few videos just to get a bit that bit. It didn't take long. But I got the feeling I was watching someone who's hanging on to an ideology, an identity that she's built a life around, is losing faith in, but has realized if she lets go of it, what has she got left?
Yeah, it's an admission of, first of all, defeat, and that you've wasted your time.
Well, and also you've done some serious damage to your body.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really... Look, I never used to feel sorry for these people back in the day, because I viewed them as my enemy. And ideologically they are, because they're pushing stuff that is, in my opinion, very dangerous. People like her and Taylor Lorenz. But I do look at them now.
Though, do you know what I mean? Yeah. She's a useful idiot.
That's what I mean. That's how the left operate. They find useful idiots who are highly impressionable, and they can't be molded and controlled and sent off to do whatever they need to do. And I feel like I haven't softened up in that sense, but I look at the individual involved and I'm like, God, you've really went through it, and you can never admit it. I feel bad for them, but in a weird way, if that makes sense.
No, it really does. I think I don't think you get this if you've got extended families and communities, for a start.
I would assume not.
I just don't think there'd be a place for that. Maybe I'm wrong. It's conjecture, I suppose, but teenagers, it is a hard time. I think it's got harder. Again, we go back to technology, we go back to social media, we go back to, am I pretty, am I strong, all that. But I do feel very sad when I see these people, and I'm like you. A few years ago, I'd have just made a video ripping the piss out of her, and I don't want to misname her. I don't know what gender she is. I just don't know, but society has abandoned her in a way. She
served her purpose in a sense. She served her purpose, and she was fully all in, because back in the day, there was an ecosystem there that convinced her that this was the right thing to be doing. But now things have moved on, and she's been churned out and done away with. And she's desperately hanging on to that thing that she once had. And like I said at the end of that video, oh, peace out, subscribe. It's like, come on, please stop.
And what? Can someone help me? And also, she's been replaced by the new front line is teachers, isn't it? Non-binary teachers, which are clearly more effective because they've got your kids.
Yeah,
that's absolutely what I see. I see them on Libs of TikTok. They're in front of a group of like 5-year-olds, and they're looking at the camera. My children know my identity and my pronouns, and the kids all say it. It's like, why? Your kids shouldn't even know if you're heterosexual. What is your sex? I mean, I don't even know how T has been put onto LGB, because LGB surely is a sexuality and T is an identity. I mean, are we going to get LGBTF, and F is footballer? I'm a professional footballer.
Right.
I mean, it's a weird one that they've managed to stick on the end of it. And why are you talking to your kids about your sex life? I said this to someone on here the other day. When we were kids, we didn't even know our teacher's first name. It was weird when you found out that Mr. Pay was called Terry.
Yeah,
it was weird.
Same here. I remember we were graduating. It was prom. We were 16, and one person I was with went up to one of our teachers and called him by his first name, and the look on his face was one of, "Did you just call me by my first name?" And we all thought it was hilarious because it's like, you don't do that. How did you even find that out, you know? His name's Mr. Campbell. You're not supposed to know he's called David.
Yeah. It was weird. Yeah. And now they know whether they want arse or pussy. It's just insane. I missed an entropy from Years. Thank you, Years. Years said that Taylor Lorenz is the very definition of a champagne socialist, isn't it? Yeah, exactly.
That's plenty of them around.
She's all for distributing the wealth as long as it's other people's wealth.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Chris. I think I was talking to you about this a while ago, and this actually relates back to the World Cup that we were talking about earlier. And, you know, there was a huge thing about, well, Qatar, they don't like LGBT people, and we have to make a stand for this. We're going to wear the rainbow armbands and all this nonsense. And you had people, fans, regular football fans, England fans, turning up to these stadiums wearing rainbow hats and getting kicked out by the authorities. And I think I was talking to you about this a while ago, and you were saying, well, let's just say that the LGBT community just want to be treated the same as everyone else. What's the real difference between them and us? Why do they need parades? Why do they need special treatment? And you pointed out very rightly that the only real difference is the physical act of sex. That's the only difference between them and regular people. So what you've got now is football fans, men, turning up to these stadiums with a rainbow hat, and what they're really advocating for is gay sex. That's it. Isn't that the biggest psyop of all time? I support gay sex. Like, fucking hell, mate.
There was that on one of the first ever gripes, that original gripe where they turned up to gripe, what's his name? The bloke with the big head face. Thank you for those 2 donations. Charlie Kirk.
Yeah.
And he had a guest on who was gay, and he was talking about gays on the right. And, you know, I always support gays. I think gays are great. They've always been around. They're always going to be there. Don't worry about it. If you're worried about it, I think you want to think about something. But this bloke just kept talking about gays. And one of the blokes said to him, he said, "Thanks for coming, Charlie, and bringing a guest. Can you tell me how anal sex is going to help prevent the replacement of our people in America?" And it was like, well, it's a fair question because that's all he's been talking about. Now, I don't mind if he's gay. I mean, gay away, but we don't need to know about it. You know, if I was to get up and give a political speech, I would hope I wouldn't start talking about sex.
But it's brilliant because the person who asked that question just broke it down to the fundamental level of this is actually what you're saying, and it doesn't hold any water. And it's the same thing with the Qatari World Cup this year. Thousands of football fans have been tricked into campaigning and getting kicked out of stadiums in support of gay sex. Like, it's so stupid. This is what Western values are now, apparently.
I mean, I think it must be very, very difficult growing up and coming to terms with a sexuality that isn't the norm. I think that must be a fucking difficult thing to do. I don't get what that must be like because I haven't been through it, but I can imagine, you know, puberty is hard enough anyway. But when you're sitting in a room full of blokes and they're all talking about birds and you're thinking, well, actually, I quite like you, John. You know, that's got to be difficult because if you're going to be yourself, you're going to lose all your mates because they ain't going to put up with that at age 13, you know. So I do understand that they've had a very different journey, but how that's been weaponized is what concerns me. And when all this trans stuff exploded, and when all the LGBT lobby exploded, I was living in Soho, and I used to go to the gay NA meeting because the stories were incredible. And
where Boy George was and Michael Barrymore.
Yeah, well, you know, the A in NA is anonymous, so you know. They were completely pissed off with it. They were like, I can't, you know, this is just wrecking our lives. It's wrecking our lives because it had just got to a time where we were accepted as part of society, which was what was wanted. But now they were fucking under the microscope. Now parents were blaming Boy George for his kid's teacher, talking to him about anal sex.
Right.
You know, that hasn't got anything to do with Boy George, really.
Yeah, you don't really want to hurt him, do you? I mean, come on.
Yeah, go on, come on, good one. Yeah, have a look at this little video. It's quite a classic. But yeah, I do want to stress that point. I think that must be a difficult thing to come to terms with growing up, and I think a lot of people don't cut people slack in that. Because of the damage the activists have done, your regular gay and lesbian is having a harder time of life because of the lobby.
I'll say something. I mean, I tend to agree with you because obviously I've known individual gay guys during my life at college, university, and they were, fine, get on with them, no problem. When I was first made aware of the sort of political aspect of it all was when I was in my early 20s and I was hired to be a photographer at the Newcastle Gay Pride Parade. And at the time, I took the job because it's a job and I wanted some money, and I was working as a photographer at the time. And I didn't even give it much thought. I thought, well, yeah, okay, gay pride, sure. But the stuff I saw that day really red-pilled me on this, because it was the entire thing. Obviously, there's a march through the city centre. We all know what gay pride is. But at the end of the march, they'd hired out a field, and there was tents and stages and gazebos and various events going on. And in each of these tents, there was a different show. So you go into one and there'd be like a transsexual swinging his cock around or whatever. And in the audience were mothers and kids and families, because they'd organized this and marketed the entire event as being family friendly. And people had taken their kids there because, well, it's gay pride. It's a great thing. It's something that happens every year. There's a big festival. There's food. There's music. But it's way more sinister than that. Why would you invite families and young children to see something like that? And I was walking around, and by the way, I'm taking pictures of this as a job, and I'm thinking that I'm tainted. I feel really weird about it, and from then on, I was very, I was against all that, because you can't see that and then just turn it off in your brain.
Look, I mean, I knew a couple of kids at school who were clearly gay, and they come from very hard working class estates, and I knew that it was going to be very difficult for them. They probably wouldn't come out until they left home and got out of that state. Now imagine you're a kid, you get to about 15 and you can't live a lie anymore, and you come out to your parents and you think, whether they accept it or not, I can't live this lie. So you come out to them, and maybe they're all right with it. Maybe it's a bit of a struggle because they're a different generation. It's a bit of a struggle, but they're like, as long as you look after yourself, you're my boy, and, I love you. And, the old man might have a few, that's difficult for a father, I think, especially working class. But then you see gay pride on telly where there's blokes wearing chin fucking dildos. They're walking around with chaps on. There's a bloke who had his head in the urinal so that people could piss in his mouth. That doesn't make that gay kid's life any easier. That makes it a fucking nightmare.
Yeah, and what I just can't forgive is the middle class mothers with their 3 young kids under 5 taking them there and saying, "Look at that guy with his cock out wearing a wolf mask. Isn't that wonderful? I mean, what are you doing?
Yeah.
But do they even know what they're doing? That's my question. Do they even know what they're doing?
And again, that's not to do with being gay. That's to do with kids. You shouldn't be showing kids strange men's penises. That's just, that's just
obviously not. But I do think the LGBT movement, if you want to call it that, the political aspect of it is designed to get at kids. That's undeniable.
Agreed.
Seen it firsthand, and it's happening more and more with teachers, like you mentioned before.
Yeah, lives of TikTok. It's every day, and it's shocking. John Moulton, thank you. Happy Christmas, guys, and you, John. Dawn Browning 15 minutes ago, probably more like 7 now. Have a look at this little bit of video. I think I'll enjoy it. Yiz, you said, thank you, 692 MHW, much appreciated, mate. Yiz, you said that you gave me an entropy. Is that the one that I read out? And thank you, Dawn, for that reminder and that donation. Have a look at this video. It's you'll like this.
All right.
There we go. It's only a short one. It doesn't matter that we haven't got through the clips. I can use them for the one I'm doing with Horace next week. the other 30 minutes. Here we go. Hang on. Ah, England, eh? Beautiful England.
Speaking.
Oh.
It's fucking terrible, isn't it?
The Shire has been invaded by Isengard. That's exactly what's happened.
Me and Horace have been talking a lot lately about architecture and modernism and brutalism, and I just stumbled on that video and thought that's superb. Right, I don't know what the next.
By the way, I haven't seen Paul Joseph Watson for years. I was very surprised when his face just popped up there. Is he still going?
He's putting out some great stuff. I'm not sure whether it's his video. I think this might be the end of that last clip. Let's have a look.
Okay.
But yes, he's still going, and he's absolutely still right on it. He's right. He's doing great stuff.
It's just another word for conformity. It's the
Right, so this will be the last clip because it's quite long. Morrissey. If you don't know, Morrissey was the lead vocalist from the Smiths. Now, the Smiths have never been supported by the music press. They hate him. And the Smiths are one of the most amazing bands. He's never broken. He's always been based. And yet when the Smiths, and now the Smiths are obviously over, when Morrissey releases a gig, it sells out within an hour with no marketing, no media help whatsoever. And this is a conversation about diversity. And check out how based Morrissey is.
It's just another word for conformity. It's the new way of saying conformity, diversity. You don't see anything diverse anywhere.
No.
It's all conformity.
It's having the opposite effect, in fact, isn't
It is, because when people talk about diversity, they don't think about the great things that we don't have in common.
Mm-hmm.
And those things are ignored. And they always made countries very interesting, because you could travel to Germany, you could see the most incredible culture. You go to Italy, you see the most incredible culture. Now they just want everything to be the same.
Yeah.
So diversity means conformity. It doesn't mean avant-garde or let's make really interesting, strange art. It means box everybody.
Yeah.
Diversity, I think, is a dreadful word. Pin it to anything and that situation is finished. It's a terrible word.
Moser explains how the music industry manufactures artists so they can maintain total control over everything they say or do.
They don't know what to do with people like me. They think this is odd.
It's almost like there's a preference to manufacture artists so that they can control.
They understand manufactured artists. They can get rid of them when they're bored. You know, when industry is bored with them, they just get rid of them.
Yeah.
But you can't with people like me.
Which in turn leads to a conveyor belt of boring celebrities with literally nothing interesting to say.
But I think you put yourself out there, you step out there, and you have to expect it, really. It's going to happen. And it happens to everybody, to a degree, if they're interesting.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen to people who are not very interesting.
Exactly. But the people that are seen as not interesting are often the ones that are just frightened to actually say what's on their mind and what they believe.
Usually there is nothing.
He also highlighted how culture in general has been deliberately dumbed down to elevate and normalize the moronic.
In the late 90s, I was interviewed a great deal, and I constantly spoke of a dumbing down that was happening in England everywhere. Television commercials, everything to do with British life. It was just aimed at the moron. And that has absolutely happened now. I mean, if you watch British television commercials, they're insufferable.
Mm-hmm.
The noise and the content is always the same. People dancing in £6 million kitchens. That's all people do in Britain is dance, 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 dance. If you live repeat, dancing. It's really now moronic.
Morrissey is a rare breed, the likes of which have gone virtually extinct.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, it's a very interesting comment. Just people fucking dancing. What a comment. What a comment to say, all you get is people dancing in £6 million kitchens.
But that's true, though. I mean, he's a bit of a poet, so he can explain it like that. But he is right. Whenever you see something on TV and they've got this huge kitchen island, this huge marble centerpiece,
the island.
It's like, no one's fucking got this in their house. Like, very few people have this. With their mixed race family, you know.
Most people, yeah, exactly. Most people's houses, you can fit in those kitchens.
Yeah, exactly. But he's right. I mean, he's mourning a culture that used to be great and it isn't anymore because it's been watered down and softened. He's right. When I went to Germany, I was expecting to experience Germany, but I didn't experience that at all. It was just the same as it's the same as France. It's the same as Sweden, Netherlands, England. There was no differentiation there. It was very disappointing.
I had quite a falling out with a few scrubs because I started playing some Balinese gamelan music, and then I played some Indian tabla music,
right?
And then I played some African drumming. And my point was that if you're a nationalist, you should be supporting that because you don't have to like it aesthetically. But that's the music of that ethnicity. That's the music of that nation, and that's what nationalism is about. It's about maintaining your history, maintaining your cultural artifacts, and you know we've lost ours. We've lost the great European tradition of music. It was just fantastic. What is it now? What is it really? Where is it? There's no classical music being made really. No one listens to it. If you go to a classical music venue, it's 100 years old. What modern classical?
No, of course not.
We lost it. Young English people listen to R&B. They wear African American clothes and listen to African American music. That's English popular music now.
Can I, on that subject, you've just sparked something in my brain, and I know we're going long here, but I don't really mind. You've got it totally right there. Even in the way people speak language, one thing that I really dislike is when I hear, I think everyone says it now, from young people to radio presenters to whoever, they say, "Oh, this new album's just dropped. This new thing's just dropped." It's like, fucking stop saying that stuff. That's not how you talk. That's not how we talk. You are using this outside influence, this language, to express yourself. That's not how we do things, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And it's like, you're totally right. I would never advocate for Japan to become a brown sludge globalist sort of Germany.
Nor would Japan. The beautiful thing about Cambodia is the amount of Buddhist festivals you have out here. They keep going. This is Cambodia. It's 98% Khmer people, and you ain't one of them. You're a second-class citizen out here, as I should be, and it's a fucking privilege. I don't make any demands off of this country.
And I think one thing I misunderstood when I was younger, because again, we talked about films earlier. I'll make this quick, but someone like the Critical Drinker, right? He always rallies against woke culture. So the message. He would complain. I think he did make a video complaining about how the Little Mermaid's been cast as a black girl. Yeah. I made one 4 years ago, the exact same thing. But I think where he and I differ is he would be one of those Jordan Peterson types where he'd say that racial identity doesn't matter. It's about the individual. But at the same time, he wouldn't advocate for a black James Bond. So either it matters or it doesn't. That's the fundamental difference. I wouldn't want a black James Bond for the same reason I wouldn't want a white Blade or a white Shaft.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. And maybe that's something I didn't fully express when I was a bit younger, but it's what you're saying. I don't want to impose this globalist nonsense, this interchangeability
and
on
it's
anyone.
so insulting to Africa. I mean, why don't you make a movie about the Zulus? I'd be very interested, you know, and it's just they've just sort of said, nah, we make Wakanda. I mean, do you know about Kwanzaa, Dan? Do you know about Kwanzaa?
Kwanzaa, I haven't heard of that.
Oh my God. Oh, you're going to love this. Now, people in the chat probably know more about it than me, but we do take the piss about it. I think African Americans have invented a new Christmas, and it's called Kwanzaa. It's not a joke.
Okay.
And they do, like, on their YouTube channels, they're like, Happy Kwanzaa, everyone. So that, you know, they've diluted and sort of wiped European culture out of the way. No, you're not allowed that. You know, right. Santa Claus is black. But then they've invented a new one for them, Kwanzaa. Look it up after this; it will blow your mind.
Well, I mean, you get prizes for being creative, I suppose, if nothing else.
It's just extreme, you know. Like Devon Tracy's grandfather went round and recorded all that African music, which is actually African music. It's the folk music. And he recorded it. He recorded the notation. He made a museum for it. And without him, most of that would have been lost. But you don't hear many of these activists asking to get that played. No, because they're not actually interested in their own culture. They're interested in causing problems with other people's.
Yeah, and what Morrissey was saying there about diversity, I would go a step further and say diversity is just another term for fewer white people. That's basically what it is. Fewer Europeans.
Oh, but it is also that kind of, you know, it's that when you get your plasticine as a kid and you've got all the colours of the rainbow, and within 3 months it's just a brown blob. You know,
yeah, that's exactly right.
When I used to travel around the world as a younger man, you went to a different country, you had different, even France, you had different money, you had different coffee, things looked different, a different language. You felt like you were in a different country.
Yeah.
Whereas now you can go like halfway around the world, and it's like, this looks a little bit like London. I'm not sure it was worth the fucking airfare, to be honest with you. And that's what globalism is about, because the more you can make everything the same, the cheaper it is to produce.
Exactly. And you see this when you go on YouTube and you look at these historical videos of London in the 60s, or even before then, London in the 40s or the 20s, Paris in the 30s.
Beautiful.
And yeah, beautiful. And it's all very European and very white, but there's a lot of differences there as well. You know which city you're in.
Yeah.
And then all you have to do is scroll down to the comments, and you're not the only one noticing it. That's for sure.
Yeah.
You know, back then there was individual qualities and iconography associated with each city. You know where you were. Now, you could drop me in some random street in London, and I could be in London, Paris, Berlin, or Copenhagen. I don't know.
You know, I know it does show my age, but I'm sure I know people in the chat will agree with me. I can remember when you went to a different town in England that was 20 miles away. Like, so my mum would say, let's go down to Maidstone for the day rather than Dartford. You get a train, you go down there, and it didn't look like Dartford. There were bits of it that did, but it had its own bridge here. It had, it had things that, had things in common, but it was a different town. And I remember when suddenly all those pedestrianised areas had that weird sort of red brick parquet, and every town had it. And I remember going up to Newcastle and it had it.
Oh, really?
And I remember, and then all the street lights everywhere look the same. And now in England, you can go to 50 towns and they're all pretty much identical, the town centres. All the same shops, all the same fucking pedestrianised areas. That's in the same nation.
Yeah, I agree. You mentioned Newcastle there. I live 20 minutes away. Every time I'm there, which isn't often because I tend to avoid it, it is a miniature Birmingham, Manchester, London. There is nothing individual about it anymore. I mean, if you look up at the building and the architecture, you can see, oh yeah, that's what it used to be like.
All those beautiful bridges and that. But
yeah, the bridges still there.
They disappear under the diversity.
Yeah, but you walk through street level, and it's like you're saying, there's fast food places everywhere. There's, I don't know, I mean, every single shop that you see everywhere. There's no point in even going to a city anymore.
Yeah, that's it. And global travel will be like that soon, you know, and they want that. That's why they don't want the lumpen proletariat moving around. That's why they talk about the greenhouse gases and all this. Oh, you shouldn't be flying. We fly because we're important, but, you know, sit at home, we'll be right. God's Cosmic Bollock, thank you for the Ayrton Senna. We need to get past the idea that criticising immigration means criticising immigrants themselves. It doesn't mean that, and with dishonourable exceptions, it never really has. No, this is why Hate Not Hope had so much problems with me when they said I was operating from my base in Cambodia. What with my Cambodian fiance? I'm that kind of Nazi, am I? Good call, well done. But although they've got 80,000 Twitter followers, they only had 3 people respond to that tweet, and 2 of them were people saying, have you seen this bloke's channel? You might want to have a look. Anyway, Dan, we don't want to tread on Wose's toes. It's been an absolute pleasure. I could have gone on for hours. You know, you are always welcome on this channel. We've had good numbers, and we've done 3 hours, which is great going.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for coming on.
No problem. Same time tomorrow? Or?
I tell you what, you tell me whenever you want to come on, and I will arrange it for a few days after, anytime.
Look, Chris, I can talk about Steven Seagal all day.
We'll do the Seagal stream. I'll tell you what, I could probably do that, actually. It'd be quite a laugh. I'll tell you what, we're going to do this Rocky 1 watch along, maybe pop in for 30 minutes or something on that if you want. But now I'm taking advantage. You know, you are always welcome here.
I'll tell you what, if I get the urge, again, I'm getting ill. I can feel it more and more. If I'm okay by the end of the week, maybe I'll give you a message and maybe we can do something soon again. And then,
all right, and don't feel pressured though. You know, I will always have you on. Look after yourself, Dan. That coof kind of comes and goes, I've noticed. You think you're all right, then the next day you're not. I want to thank Dan. Can we have a Dan in the chat, please? I want to thank everyone who donated. There's still time. Without the grift, there's no show. So thanks to everyone. I want to especially thank Steve, Cray and Rags for looking after the place. And most of all, everyone who asked questions, everyone who said stuff in the chat, because without all that, there's nothing going on here. I am going to play out with Alex Jones, though, because it seems appropriate, because it's a classic. Look after yourselves, people. Dan, I'll dispatch you from the stream. But if you haven't heard this Alex Jones song, you might have done. It's worth checking out.
I think.
Look after yourselves, people. I'll probably stream tomorrow. If not, I certainly will the next day. Thanks for coming. It means a lot to get numbers in when Dan comes in because I like him a lot. Ta-da, mate.
Cheerio.
And here we go, people, is good old Alex. I will be putting your messages on the screen. And thank you so much. I enjoyed that. I hope you did. Horace will be coming on and I'll use up the rest of the clips I've got. I've got about another 30 minutes. They're good ones too. Ta-da! Take it away, Al. Let me know you can hear it.
That's why we're just out here doing simple things, pointing out.
Thanks for the 10 of God's Cosmic Bollock.
And this is where we find the source that God made to transcend the New World Order. And that's why they want to try to keep us out of it.
I'm angry. I've had enough of these people. They're a bunch of Christian murderers, scum. They're on giant death factories keeping babies alive, selling their body parts. What more do you need to know about these people? I go out and face these scum. They literally crawl out from under rocks. They have green looking skin and they run around screaming, we love Satan, we want to eat babies. I have them on video. Hillary's in the creepy, weird, sick stuff, man. She sleeps in the same room with that creepy, weird woman whose mother wears a hood over her head. That woman number one is ugly. Imagine how bad she smells, man. I'm told her and Obama just stink. Obama and Hillary both smell like sulfur. In a room, vampire pot and the goblins are hobbling round, coming after us. My spirit gets close to that evil and I feel it go. We're such self-centered crap. We don't even notice hell itself rising up against us. Millions upon it, people of the very worst type, and I'm so pissed. We're gonna stab your daughter at the mall. We're gonna stab your wife, your son. We're gonna stab you with a butcher knife, and then the police chief is gonna say,
we love our Somalis, we love our Muslims, oh they're so sweet, oh they're so sweet.
I was watching Fox News as I worked out this morning.
You know what's weird? So was I. I mean, what a turnout. Anyone else in the chat? Nice one, Jays, for keeping after the Twitch miniature. Happy Kwanzaa, everyone. Thanks again to Dan, and thanks again for everyone turning out. Don't forget, if you're not signed up to my Substack, it's a great way of supporting the channel. It don't cost any money. Top link in the description. There's 22 autobiographical short stories. Go and give them a read. They've had really good reports. Bless you all. Now go on, piss off down your own end before you get a clip round the ear. Hoita!